What's over there hidden in Antarctica?
I believe there's something going on down there that potentially could be sinister, or it could be...
Politics is a cult.
Yes.
Right? But these cults have always been, they've worshiped leaders throughout time.
When I go down to the voting line every 4 years, I don't vote for any president. I vote for...
Do you believe Jesus was an alien?
Yahweh is Enlil from the Sumerian tablets. Same person.
The word Anunnaki, referring to the offspring of the bloodline of the gods.
We are all descendants of this bloodline that engaged mankind thousands of years ago. You discover that Hitler was obsessed with ancient technology.
Yeah.
And he sent his Nazis all over the world looking. Tibet. They went to the end of the earth looking for...
The world is at this point where we don't really want the truth. We want a version of it that is comfortable enough.
There is no universal limit. It's unlimited. We're proving that by our actions and continuing to work and press on to bring people the information. That's how we literally get one mind reprogrammed at a time.
There's 19 keys. 19
keys. I appreciate my pops for teaching me how to be a guy.
From a boy to a man, and ultimately back into the natural state of being, into a God.
As guys, we're supposed to always move with that higher self.
But I had to be able to execute it. Having knowledge is not power, the execution of knowledge is power.
Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. Because the only real knowledge you can get is knowledge of self.
This is the highest level. The highest level is ownership. The highest level is power. The highest level is sovereignty. The highest level is higher consciousness. The highest level is when we own our own culture.
Excellence at a very high level. Not eye level. A high like that.
It's time for a high level conversation.
We're here for another high level conversation.
19 keys, and this is a high level conversation.
Tap in with the God.
Peace, family. Welcome back to another High Level Conversations. If you've been a fan of this show, then you already know the esteemed guest that we have on today. This is probably part 4 of us having conversations here on High Level. I've been thinking about what exactly I want to have a conversation with, because it's not worth anything if it's redundant. It has to be advancing. It has to be progressive. But then there's so much knowledge and so many different subjects, I realize we really haven't talked about anything. Even if we spent 100 hours conversing, there's still more depth, there's still more layers, there's more nuance, more perspective, more philosophy, more ideologies, and more mysteries about the universe and the human mind, soul, and spirit that we just don't know. And when it comes to high-level conversations, it's about exploring all of that. What's been on my mind lately is the cosmic reality and the cosmic observer. I've been studying a lot just how ancient civilizations, thinkers, philosophers would correlate themselves with solar cycles or moon cycles or cosmic cycles, and how modern man has lost that observation of self in a sense of how the sun, moon, and star affects them, or what age are we actually living in. And when you go and you draw back, whether it's the ancient Anunnakians or in Sumer, or you looking at cosmists in Russia, there was always these conversations about the evolution of society, the immortality of society, but also how cosmic bodies affected us and how that has shifted on human behavior. And when I look at those old philosophies and I look at where we are in modern day, they were spot on as far as looking at how solar activity affects human beings. Now we're in what we call a solar cycle 25, right? Where you have high solar cycles and low solar cycles, to where the sun emits, a larger amount of sunspots and sun flares towards the earth, right? And there was a correlation in the philosophy that was breaking down how human physiology is directly affected by what happens in the cosmos. Now, what I want to talk to Billy Carson about today is some of the ancient philosophies around the cosmos and how human bodies are connected to cosmic bodies. Now, there's a lot more subjects that he don't know we about to go into as well, but I believe he's the right person for this job. I don't have to prepare him, no prep work, don't tell him what's about to come, but I know he has a lot of knowledge in his mind that can add some interesting thought to this subject. And so I want you all to think about when we are in time, what cycle are we at, and how we've lost our connection. We may look at our watches, we may think about our jobs, we may think about our financial cycles, but when it comes to the cosmic cycles, the cosmic observer have all lost his consciousness and understanding his place in the universe. So therefore, we don't really know what we're doing. Now, when you understand the age that you're living in and the time that you're living in, you know exactly what to do for this time. You understand why certain empires must fall. You understand why societies go through shift. You understand why the female consciousness is being raised on the planet Earth. You understand why certain science and technological advancements start to happen, why people start to seek immortality and destroy a lot of the things that have been constructed by man as far as his institutions, because it's the natural order of cycle of things as far as how consciousness is affected by the cosmos. That's our topic for today, Mr. Billy Carson.
Hey, I'm ready, man. That's a great topic.
How you feeling?
Hey, phenomenal, man.
Yes,
phenomenal.
sir.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have to get accolades because people already know. We just came from the Conscious Awards and you've been all around the world, right? Literally, everywhere you go, you see Billy Carson.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you've done something phenomenal because I believe the reason that you've done so phenomenal is because you're prepared for the time that we're in.
Yeah.
Right? I was looking up the root word of religion. It goes to religio, and it was specifically at the time, it was talking about man's connection with the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of people say they're not religious, not actually true, right? It's a misuse of the word based on how you connotate a feeling towards it.
Right.
But religion is just man explaining his connection to the divine. So even by saying you're spiritual, right? That's a religion itself. But when we talk about the cosmic observer, I want to kind of get into how the ancient civilizations observed themselves, right, in effect to the cosmos.
Yeah. Ancient civilizations really saw themselves as a reflection of what happened in the sky. And that's why they revered what they saw in the sky, right? The rise of the sun and the descent of the sun as it went down into this region called, some of the ancients called it Jilbaba, the underworld. And they began to correlate themselves in these corporeal, temporal bodies as being directly connected and affected by what happens in the sky. And so as they began to make these observations, we see the Dogon tribe, for example, in Mali, Africa, who originally, they used to be the original inhabitants of the land of Kemet long before the dynastic era even began. Eventually, they ended up getting pushed out into Mali. But even during the land of Kemet, the time of ancient Kemet, they had the knowledge of star systems in the sky, the Sirius A, B, and C trinary star system. Now, they claim that they were given knowledge about this from Nomo, from these advanced people named the Nomo that gave them the knowledge of these star systems. But not only that, they gave them specific instructions on specific star alignments, when to plant their crops, when to have their harvest, when to have celebrations, when to, for the women to start giving birth. All these cycles and celebrations and all these, these traditions were all based on specific star alignments. And it was amazing that they can do this because you really can't observe these stars, some of them with the naked eye. For example, Sirius B is a white dwarf. You can't see it with the naked eye, but they knew it was there. They knew the orbital period, and they knew when it was in a specific orbit that they would have some of these particular rituals. They have this one ritual called the Siggi. And during the Siggi, they would have these ritualistic dances with these masks, all symbolizing a lot of these ancient traditions. You go further back, also going to the ancient Sumerians, the Assyrians and the Babylonians, they all revered the sky. They understood the sky in a way that we are just now understanding today and how it affected them and how it affects civilization. They were tied into understanding the path to Orion and the path through the Orion to get to the Pleiades. They called the Pleiades Mulmul, M-U-L-M-U-L, and they revered Mulmul. And according to this, there are specific alignments that happen in that region of the sky that also control what happens here on Earth. When you read the text about it, it's almost like a butterfly effect. What happens there affects what happens here, and what happens here affects what happens there. And then in some way, spiritually, they felt like they were connected energetically and spiritually to the Pleiadian star system. And a lot of that information from that text made it into biblical texts, as it's talked about in the Bible. It's talked about in other religious texts as well. But the thing that's amazing about it is that it's 444 light years away from Earth, exactly. And this 444 symbol, which represents, for them in ancient times, it represented revolution. And so at the time that there's a particular alignment with the Pleiades, with Earth, there's this revolutionary mindset that always seems to crop up. It has a direct effect on us. It's part of the cycle of revolution. And this alignment is coming into play right now as we're heading into the age of Aquarius. This alignment's about to happen again. And what do we see going on around the planet? We see a lot of revolution. We see a lot of people around the world beginning to wake up and begin to ask more questions and begin to look for more solutions and begin to stop playing the status quo game. They kind of want to get out of the game. They want to break the cycle that we're in terms of people putting a boot on our neck and try to actually create a new system. This is where you have DeFi and crypto and all these other new things starting to crop up, right? People want to get out of it, but that's the cycle that we're heading into right now. This cycle that's directly attached to the Pleiadian star system. Also, if you look at astrology, okay, in astrology, when I first heard about astrology when I was much younger, I kind of thought it was kind of woo-woo and didn't really make any sense. But then as I got older, I started reading some of these astrology texts that had to do with me. Yeah. And I started seeing a lot of correlations there. I was like, this is crazy because this is really something I can relate to. So I said, what is the science behind this astrology? And I really dug deep. And what it took me to was understanding that they took tadpoles into space in low Earth orbit, and they watched these tadpoles develop under zero gravity conditions. Then they also watched these same tadpoles develop, of course, under Earth gravity conditions and under specific planetary alignment conditions. And when they did this, it affected the development of the embryo. So if you can understand that those gravitational fields can affect the development of an embryo and the characteristics of that entity or that being, then of course I had to correlate that to the human being and say, if you're born on a specific day under a specific star alignment, it's quite possible that those gravitational fields are having a direct energetic effect on the development of every cell in your body, the way your mitochondria works, the way your cell biology works, the way what genes are activated and not activated. It's all based on these fields. Mm-hmm. And those fields, in my opinion now, through a developmental process of the embryonic cycle, help to create your personality traits that you were born with. So a lot of the traits that people are born with, so of course some are through epigenetics and some are just through what you learn as you get programmed as a young child, but a portion of them are due to the fields that you gravitationally grew up under or you were in gestation, during the gestation process. Those gestation process periods, those fields had a direct effect. So we see this correlation between the sky and Earth. And the last one I would say is that if you look at our solar system, where it is in the Milky Way galaxy, it's actually on this gigantic accretion disk that's orbiting a supermassive black hole. Now, our solar system undulates up and down millions and millions of light years up and down as it goes around the Milky Way. And as it's doing that, it's going up towards the galactic equator and passing it above it and rising below it. Right now, we're exactly at the galactic equator. What does that mean? The supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy is emitting super high charged particles that are streaming at us at the speed of light. These particles are actually penetrating our bodies and going into our DNA and altering our DNA and genetic code as we sit here. Mm-hmm. So we see this cycle, it happens, right, every so many thousands of years, that all of a sudden now our DNA is being altered by what's happening in space, which is creating what? A whole new man. So we're going through this cycle, this Yuga cycle, this Kali Yuga cycle, and right now I think that we're in the Tetra Yuga, which is right now, we can call it in layman's terms, the Silver Age, the beginning of the Silver Age, as we're heading back towards the Golden Age. We're probably about 10 to 12,000 years away from a true Golden Age, though.
Mm. All right. So you just hit a home run. So, man is jailed on Earth in his thinking. and the way that we're governed.
Yeah.
Right? Ancient civilizations, they were governed with cosmic mathematics, divine mathematics, right? And so with that thinking of understanding that, okay, well, this is the age that we are in based on cosmic alignment, then certain things as far as the rulers of that period in time would make sure that they would do things that was in line with that. But we live in a world of chaos where the philosophies that run over this world is not based on cosmic politics, right? It's based on capitalism, right? And capitalism creates this cosmic slavery because now you cannot be free, right? In the sense that you can live in alignment with the age that we're in because you have to live accordingly to making a living, right?
Yep.
Not actually living.
Yeah.
And so when I think about this cosmically, there was a philosophy about biocosmos, and it was essentially talking about, you know, human beings having a relationship outside of Earth, being able to travel to other planets and populate them as well. But then it also goes into the thinking of how we're all different, right? Based on our biology, right? In the sense that if you think everybody is equal, right, then you will have to start looking at, okay, what measurement of equal are we going by? Because we're not even equal in life because some of us live longer than others, right? And so if the ruling class live longer than the poor class, then there's not even life equality, right? And now we're getting to the age of immortality to where the wealthy class want to live forever, right? So is it quality of life? Is it quantity of life? How many days you actually get on this planet or how many quality days you get on this planet, right? And so to ease the mind and for one to be in flow, you have this generation that are stark deconstructionists, but they don't know how to reconstruct. And you don't have to reconstruct in the sense that you have to come up with it yourself. You just have to understand what divine body that we're under and what time that we're in, right? And so during this period, yes, you can't fight technology because the shift of innovation is the disruption of the creative. The creative comes to disrupt, right? Things are not supposed to be the same. Everybody was not always allowed to innovate. You can't just come up with things and push them to society because it will disrupt everything.
Yeah.
Right? And to this day, it's similar to that, the way that companies create monopolies. But I want to get into a little bit of philosophy and your ideas about, you know, thinking about what philosophies should govern the current reality of humanity. Because we're in this age where we're fighting communism, Marxism, you know what I'm saying, capitalism, socialism, like, and we don't have the intellects at the forefront of the discussion to guide humanity. We got identity politics at the forefront, right? Individuals trying to hold on to something because they feel lost, and so they pick their identity, and then that becomes a way for the ruling class to divide people so that they never focus at the top. But what philosophies, if we're thinking about the ruling of the future, or some of your own personal, if you would like to share, or some that you've read that you believe are the highest ones, what should be the philosophies of the future that are worth fighting and living for?
Yeah. There's a philosophy that I studied. It actually comes from ancient texts, and it's not just from one text. It's across various texts through the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, the Sumerian tablets, and specifically in the Epic of Atrahasis, the Code of Hammurabi, the Tablet of Atana. And it's sort of bringing me to this understanding of what really went on in ancient times and how certain ones were able to rise up above all of that. And what I noticed in every single one of those occurrences, the people that rose up all proclaimed themselves to be their own king, their own ruler. So, for example, when I go down to the voting line every 4 years, I don't vote for any president. I vote for myself. I take the blank ballot and I write my name on it and I put that in the box. That became my philosophy because what I'm doing is I'm taking a stand to myself and to the world and to my family, and I'm saying, I am the president. I'm the president of my life and my family's life, and I'm going to operate as such. Imagine if we all took that philosophy where all of us took on the role of becoming our own president and putting into place mentally, physically, and spiritually those aspects that we feel a president should have. Taking care of the community, looking after your family, protecting the women, making sure your community is clean, putting programs in place to help the youth and so forth and so on. If we all took on that mindset and then acted on it, and every one of us had that same mentality, then we would realize there really truly is no need for a president, because all of us would be doing the work that needs to be done, and we would be collaborating. There wouldn't be competition, there would be collaboration. Right now, the current system has us stuck in a cycle of consumption and competition with no collaboration. But switching into the philosophy of mindset of becoming your own president and collaboration, all of a sudden the world would transform and change overnight.
That gets me thinking of a conversation I was having with the Dr. Sirius about the idea that utopias are always spoken about as the next generation inheritance, right? That there's going to be a generation that's going to live a utopian life.
I hear so many times that we've told that utopia is going to be the next generation's inheritance. But the goal is to make utopia, right, the reality while we're living.
Yes.
Right? Why is it always projected on the ascendants?
Yes.
Why is it not in the now? Because there was an ancestor that was projecting that this generation will be living in a utopia.
Yes.
And yes, it's radical, but that's the most radical revolution that we need. A total overhaul of this devil's world and creating our own utopia now, not later.
Exactly.
And then you would then take that same philosophy and say, no, why isn't it the inheritance of now?
Now.
Right? Why? Because we're like 100 generations from 1,000 generations from the first philosopher to say that, and every so-and-so, there's somebody to say there's one time it's going to be, but it takes generations for that to happen. But now it's supposed to be, we're saying that, no, this is our age. We're not waiting till we die for the best part of living to happen, right? For the best part to be on earth to happen. So then that will require the sort of mindset that you're speaking on, to where a person decides to govern their mind, right? And to govern their money, right? Which is what the government is for, mind and money, and preside over our own affairs, right? When we look at the way campaigns are structured, they elect leaders. If you want to elect leaders to help with the affairs, right, of governing humanity, we can do such. It doesn't have to be in a government body that doesn't add in the spiritual politics of the world. Right? Which is why they're so devoid of anything of life, because spirit is breath and they're not created for life. Matter of fact, it can capitalize off death if they need to. But in the sense of a utopia, it's saying that, all right, how do we create a utopia now? Like if that's the project for humanity, creating a utopia now, we got 10 years to create a utopia on earth, right? Because what will end up happening is all of the prediction and philosophies of the ancient age we end up living through. But what are the philosophies and predictions that say that our current time will be a utopia before we die? Now, the thing about it is, if we don't spread the ideas, then the reality won't be manifested, right? Which is the purpose of this conversation, is that these are the ideas that should now be built upon, because evolution is not based upon some theory of monkey to man. It's about mind to mind, how we evolve upon ideas, right? So that we don't have to start all the way over from a point of ignorance, and how we inherit ideas because we already have knowledge within the DNA activated. But the law of relevancy, it says that, what you've recently learned is what's at the forefront of your head, but it's the same thing that happens in your family. What's recently in your DNA is what you can activate the most, right? We call those gifts and talents. So for this generation, it's their job to deposit as much knowledge and philosophies about the world that they want to live, and become as much of the person of the type of future that they want to see, right, into reality. And if we create a planetary shift of people doing that, the next generation will force to be a different people, because that's what's in them. The overriding of that, the toxins inside their DNA that we inherited, the breaking of the curses. Has there ever been a time in history where there was such radical change, where the people went through a vast enlightenment age and created a utopia?
Yeah, there's been several. I mean, you hit it right on the head too, man, what you just said. If you go all the way back, you're going back now, potentially almost 1 million years. We're talking about Lemuria, an island off the coast of Australia that had people on it. Now, these people, it's not stated as to where these people came from or how they got here. But the Aboriginals that I sat down with in Australia, the Aboriginal elders, when I went for a walkabout in 2020, right before the whole thing collapsed, right, the global sickness, They told me that Lemuria was an incredible island city that had people there that had telekinesis, psychic abilities, full use of all their mental capacity, high level of spirituality. They had technology, but the technology was actually combined with the spirituality. It worked together, not against each other. And at some point, they had a long-lasting golden age, and then the fall settled in, and eventually it began to fall and collapse, and eventually even the whole island supposedly sunk. They were kind of alluding to potentially an attack, but they couldn't say it was because they don't have any raw information about it. But their verbal handed down history for thousands of years is there was a force of action that created the collapse of Lemuria. And then you go over to the land of ancient Kemet. Kemet existed in a golden age for a very long time. They had achieved such a high level of technology in that civilization that people didn't have to work. They were focusing on arts and crafts and seeking their inner selves and travel, going around the world, not just going around the region, literally traveling around the world and having a great life experience. They didn't even have a military or a police force. And that eventually was their downfall, was that some people came and say, hey, wait a minute, these people, they just over here smelling roses, man. Let's take it. And that's how they got taken the first time. It was unfortunate. Egypt, ancient Kemet, has been overthrown 7 times in history, documented. Some people say, well, how come all the races are different colors? Well, it's because they were overthrown different times. But every time they achieve this level of golden age, it's like crime disappears. Even the Dogon tribe that was the original inhabitants of the land of Kem, which are now in Mali, no police force, no military, 0 crime, 100% peace, still to this very day. So you're talking about this ancient mindset or understanding of really how to live in peace and harmony with the earth, with yourself and with others, how to love one another, and how to achieve this tranquility which existed. The Mayans also had existed through a golden age. Really, it wasn't really the Mayans, to be honest with you. It was the Teotihuacans who existed during a golden age prior to the Mayans. And who were the Teotihuacans? Thoth, the Atlantean, according to the ancient Egyptians, ruled over the land of Kemet for 16,000 years, one man. He was getting in fights with his brother Marduk. Marduk is known in the Jewish American Library. He's in the Torah, the Talmud, and he's also in the Bible. Marduk, he's known as Amun-Ra in ancient texts. He was getting head-to-head battles with his own brother. And his father said, go to the other side of the planet, man, and start a new civilization over there. Let me deal with him. So he left and took Olmecs with him to Mesoamerica. And he built, which is now South America and Mexico, he built this entire civilization over there, which the Mayans call the Teotihuacans. And Teotihuacan is, when you convert the words, it's actually the city of Tahuti. And we know that Thoth was known as Tahuti in Africa. So it became the city of Tahuti. He achieved the golden age over there. And the synchronicity of the connection between the two civilizations, the Great Pyramid and the complex at Giza Plateau in Africa, is the same exact copy as the Teotihuacan 3 pyramids out of Mexico City. Both are aligned with the Orion. The Great Pyramid base and the Pyramid of the Sun base are exactly the same size. And the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan is exactly 50% the height of the Great Pyramid located in Egypt. So we see that there's one master architect. They both built on top of aquifers. This exact same, building technique. The blueprint's the same, basically. The uses are the same as well. The shafts are aligned with star systems and everything else. So we know for a fact that since Thoth said, build it out of the Great Pyramid, patterned after Earth's force, it's now he moved there. He created a civilization. They achieved a high level. And at some point, that civilization collapsed. And the Mayans say we've gone through 4 golden ages. They say we've gone through 4 worlds and we're headed into the 5th. The 2012 was not about the end of the world, it was about the end of an age and moving into a new age, which we're headed into now at the age of Aquarius, which is coming on us in 2025.
That gets me thinking about, you got ancient cities that had built up, 0% crime. Let's say there's no policing. You got advanced technology, right? You have one spiritual system over all of the people. That gets me thinking about cities like Dubai.
Yeah.
Right? To where you have essentially those type of cities being built up now in modern day. So it's like when you think about in ancient times, we really now at this point, we have an example of all those things.
Yes, we do.
Almost every philosophy, every technology, right? We can think about, they talk about how they were editing genes of humans back in the day. Well, we got CRISPR now.
Yeah.
Right?
That's all
Editing
back.
genes of human beings.
Yeah.
You got, ancient tablets with all the knowledge forward and backward of the planet Earth. Well, we have the internet now with knowledge of everything forward and backward.
Yeah.
We have systems, right, to where it integrates the whole, where you connect all of these AIs into the internet of things, and now it becomes a different entity within itself. Almost every ancient idea, modern man has an example of it today. We're living in a time of awe, right? And so now it's like having 1,000 civilizations at once, right? And that's but in America, it's even worse because there's not one idea that rules over America.
No.
In all these ancient places, there's just one ideas that ruled over. Was it diatheism? Was it monotheism, polytheism, right? What is it? Today, we're fighting about whether we should even have God as a concept, right? Whose God is the right one? What does it look like, right? There's so many things in America that we're just fighting over as far as what the world should be, because there's not a governing body over human beings. And unfortunately, we're at such an immature stage. This is what happens when human beings are thrown collectively in the pot.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't understand each other. Right. And so that's why you can have golden ages, but that means that people are agreeable. People are peaceable.
Yeah.
People understand each other. They believe in the same thing. So, Tahuti, going back to thought, the city of thought, the city of knowledge, a city of light. We have to have those as concepts over cities. Right. We got California as a state going to the God as a Khalifa. But what does it mean?
Right.
Is it the golden age? It says the golden state.
Yeah.
Right? Right? So if these ideas have to supersede the systems that we know now of capitalism and this so-called free market, and it has to transfer over, right, into an enlightened time to say that, okay, we can build technology, but they have to be based on these ideas.
Yeah.
So there's a concept about biopolitics, right? And it, as I was talking about earlier, but it deals with, at that particular time, the philosophers in the early 1900s in Russia was talking about how human beings can be ruled, based on, bio differences. And the way they would do that is whether it was eugenics, whether it was vaccines, whether it was public cleanliness and things of that nature, they'll be ruled and put into different classes based on that. So if you want to be, let's say, a dirty human being, right, and I talked to my brother Nuri Muhammad, he say, cleanliness is godliness, not next to it, right? Living a tonic lifestyle, right? That is the godliness itself. But what if there was a time when we forced upon people clean living? You couldn't even get toxic food. You couldn't get GMO, right? We're going in a time where there's a baby bust, but there's no ideas of that where government forces that. Instead, actually, government pushes the particular opposite, right? They approve companies that sell us genetically modified foods. And you would think that this was something out of we was reading out of a Sumerian magazine about ancient times. These are modern times.
Crazy.
They are genetically enhancing your food and putting chemicals in there so that they can be preserved over time, so that they can have a longer shelf life, so that during the time of going back and forth and we create these modern cities, modern man can go live his life to go earn a living, to take money, spend it on transportation, to get to the store to buy some food that's been waiting on him. He's like, that don't sound like an efficient system. No, it's and this is my thing. No matter how great you're treated at the plantation, you're still a slave.
That's right.
And there were some plantations, they treated some slaves a little better than others. They would get a reputation.
Right.
And if you were a slave and you were up for auction, you may be like, damn, I may want to go over to the Crawford plantation versus the KKK one, whatever, lack of imagination in that. But it didn't matter, because no matter which plantation you went to, but what it does, it lowered the standard, right, for what you even wanted. Right. So now, instead of freedom being the ultimate goal, treatment, I just want a little better treatment as a slave, not ultimately to be free. And then you start thinking you better than others.
That's right.
Oh, well, my master don't treat me like this. My master don't do this. Right. So instead of wanting complete freedom, ideological freedom, freedom to speak, freedom to move, freedom to think, freedom to be, right? To move about. You just want a little liberation, just a little liberty to do things. You want to be treated. Matter of fact, you don't mind. I want to be a rich slave.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, they figured it out to where we don't ever have to free the slaves. We just have to give them the illusion of freedom.
That's it.
And then the way you know that is because your life force will always be feeding me. Right? So you can leave this plantation and go all the way across the globe. We're going to tax all your labor. We're going to tax your movement. And to break out of this system, oh, it's going to be very hard. We're going to tax you on that too. Matter of fact, when you die, we want some money off your body.
Yeah.
When you're born, we want some money off that. When you get sick, we want some money off that. The plantation has become global and it has become mental and spiritual. And most people don't want freedom.
Yeah.
They just want better treatment.
That's it. That's exactly what it is. I mean, you look at, to take a play on it, you look at, sports, pro sports. A lot of pro sports teams that play in America, they get a special tax in every state they go play in.
Yeah.
And even if their home isn't there, they got to pay a tax in that state. So they really figure out a way to give us the illusion of freedom. But at the end of the day, all of us are still slaves as long as we're under this system that they put in place over us. And the crazy part about it is the people, us as the people, we still don't realize how much power we have.
Oh, no.
We have so much power, especially in collaboration. They prove to us that the world won't end if you shut it down. When they shut it down for that sickness, right? They shut the whole thing down. They turned it off, turned the switch off. When they canceled the NBA, I knew they were shutting down. I said, they canceled the NBA?
Yeah.
No, it's going.
Yeah, that's how everybody knew. Wait, LeBron ain't playing? Oh, man.
I was like, wow, this is real. But guess what? It came back on again. And so why can't we shut the world down? Us as the people.
Yeah.
Because we're too divided. Divide and conquer tactics has us going against each other. You know what I'm saying? And I'm jealous of him and I'm jealous of her and she's doing better than me and he's doing better and he's this color and he's that color and he's this and he's that and he's this politician, Democrat, Republican. And it's just too much fighting. If we would see that we the people are really the ones that are in control and these governments are actually, they work for us. They're supposed to be our slaves.
Right.
They're our servants, public servants. And we've been flipped into believing that we have to obey everything they tell us to do, how to do it, when to do it, or they're going to do this and this and this and that to us. And they got us operating in fear. And that fear has a lock on us and has the population in fear of what the government would do to us if we didn't obey.
Right.
Instead of us saying, no, how about y'all be in fear of what we're going to do to you if you don't obey? We'll collapse the whole damn system. Imagine if 30,000 people woke up on Monday and said, we ain't going to work, we ain't paying the mortgage payment, the car payment. Matter of fact, we've been stocking up. We ain't going to buy gas or food. We're going to shut everything down, and we'll see how y'all do without us. And that includes police officers and military and everything else. But see, everybody's afraid.
Right.
What happens if I don't do that? I'm not going to get my paycheck, and I'm already paycheck to paycheck. You got them in the slave mentality. What if everybody else don't participate in this? So everybody's operating from fear. And when you're operating in fear, you can be easily manipulated and twisted to do anything that they want you to do. And that's the position that we're in right now as humanity. It's slowly, the information is getting out. People are beginning to realize, yeah, let me operate in some of my power. It's a very slow and arduous process for us to really begin to wake up. But over time, enough of us will wake up. We just have to get to that number, right? There's a certain number that we'll reach. Then that consciousness, that revolutionary mind will spread around the planet like a virus, and all of us will begin to see the light. And this planet's going to change for the better. Economics all over the place are going to alter, change, and evolve into something else, something that we actually want. But we have to be patient and we have to be ready to understand that it's not always going to be, roses and blue skies. So there's going to be times where it's going to look like it's getting worse, but we still have to stand strong. A baby learns how to walk by controlling its fall. Every time a baby gets to the edge of the table, it pulls itself up. Humanity is a baby trying to learn how to walk.
Right.
It takes a couple steps, it falls down, it cries like hell. But the baby will take another few steps. The second time, it won't cry that much. By the third time it falls, it don't cry at all. It just gets right back up. Eventually, it learns how to control its fall, and that's where we have to be.
Well, we are inverse. We are living in an inverse simulation where everything that's our power, mostly, we keep it in the shadows, right? And we behave in an inverse manner, right? You have the gods acting like humans. You have the weak ones that are in control of the strong ones, right? And so we have taken our nature and we hid it even from ourselves. We've taken our power and we hid it from ourselves. Yeah. Imagine, think of it like this. When you see in inverse reality, you will see these huge, strong men all taking orders from this small, weak, feeble-minded man.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Something has to be wrong in that reality. They're inverse. They don't know that they are electrical beings full of potential. They've taken the concept and image of who you are and they reversed it on how you see yourself. And I was thinking about this because you look at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Oh man, so much magical melanin going on out there.
Yeah.
Oh man, they flying. I seen one brother, he jumped so high, he almost flipped himself. It was different. You know, Zecharia Sitchin out there, she running crazy. They've been trying to stop the magic. But I was thinking about this. I say one thing about melanated people is we see our magic in real life, but not on screen.
Right.
So when we see it in real life, it looks like an outlier. I see a Billy Carson moving, man, in consciousness, got a beautiful family. You know what I mean? He drive nice cars. He got a whole entire platform, right? Organized all across the planet. He has all of this knowledge, but that's an outlier.
Right.
Because I ain't never seen that on the screen.
Yeah.
But the reverse is different for every other population of people for the most part. They have a representation of their mythos that they get to see themselves as magical. If I was to see an Asian person win in a fighting competition doing something amazing, well, I synced also 1,000 times on screen. That's normal. They supposed to be like that. They the samurai warriors of the world. What are you talking about? Crouching tiger, hidden dragon. You feel me? That's what it's supposed to be. Bruce Lee's had a much bigger mythos than an actual reality was.
Right.
That's what it is. We have an actual reality.
Yeah.
Right? But the difference, if we can't change, and this is where media is so important, because young boys have to see themselves as it.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they don't really believe it. They think that, oh, well, that's just you, but it's not me. So they can't confide in any truth. They can't go in their imagination and say, this is what I'm going to be. But if you're a young white child, you can look at Superman and be like, oh, man, I can be a regular dude during the day and I can be Superman of the world, right? The rest of the time.
Yeah.
And we have to produce more of our magic into the films so that it's normalized, because in real life, we are magic. In real life, we are magic, but it's just show us in the dirtiest light, right? It's an inverse image that we have of ourselves. It's what they show us, but then it's who we really are. Like, wait a minute, I know so many powerful, powerful beings, but we're not seeing that nowhere, right? I want to play the Black James Bond.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But mixed with a Malcolm X edge. You feel me? And with the 19 keys flair. You know what I'm talking about? That's the real life.
Yeah.
But it's like, nah, we be doing all this magic, but it still don't feel like it really existing. And therefore, they take the image that we have shipped around the world is this image of toxicity and bad culture.
Yeah.
And instead, what we really are, we're really the most progressive and revolutionary people to ever exist throughout time.
Facts.
You are a study of history. There are no people who have had this many revolutionaries and activists to activate people to different modes of consciousness every single decade, which has benefited the whole planet Earth of oppressed people.
Facts.
All around the world, they're going to know Malcolm X.
Yeah.
All around the world.
Yeah.
So that is supposed to be our image. We are the Herus of the world.
Yeah.
But we're seen as the niggas of the world.
Right.
Not the niggas of the Ethiopian king,
No,
but the niggas.
the other one.
Right?
Yeah.
What we were made into, but that's not really what we were made into. It's what
Yeah.
they show you of us. But the best of us are thriving.
Yeah.
So we have a goal, and you have been doing it with Forbidden Knowledge TV, showing the best of us.
Right.
The brightest of us. Right?
Yeah.
And so now the protocol is to only show those images and to outlaw the detriment.
That's it, man.
Right?
Got to be an end of that stuff. It's over. Draw a line in the sand. It's over.
How could a golden age ever happen for a people, right, if they had so many images showing the opposite of their greatness?
Right.
Never in history of time have ever people ever gone past the image of what they thought of themselves.
Yeah.
The ancient Kemet people thought of themselves as gods on this planet. They erected statues to their greatness, to their deities.
Yeah.
And we don't have reverence for that. So how can we then take that and create a future? Our future is based on our current image, our imagination, our magi, right? So high-level conversations, what you're doing and what you do as you move around the planet Earth, you're showing a God archetype, somebody who refuses to be a slave and refuses to be the images that they show us, right? And breaking all the barriers right? That's why people, they walk up to you, they can't believe you exist.
Yeah, they say, man, you're real.
Right.
I be like, yeah, I'm real, man.
But, and then it goes to this.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get into this. You must be an alien.
Yeah.
No, think of how many times you heard that.
If I had $1, I'd be a billionaire already.
But that's what they do about history as well.
Yeah.
Anything that black people do that's great, it must be aliens. And then you can see me in real life, and some people still think Billy Carson must be an alien. Why? Because he couldn't be a black man.
Right. Yeah. It's a fact. The programming has been so strong and so locked in. When I first launched Forbidden Knowledge, I didn't have my face on the account. I only had the logo of the Eye of Horus from Kemet on the account. And nobody knew it was me because none of my posts had me in the post. I was just posting content and memes and telling information and filling up that caption and teaching knowledge. The account became very popular. As I started getting phone calls and contacts and get on all these TV shows, I realized my face was going to be out there. I said, let me start putting my face on this account so people can recognize the correlation between the two. And I never forget the first post I did with me and hey guys, it's Billy Carson. I'm the owner of Forbidden Knowledge. And the comments filled up like crazy. You hacked this account. These are black people talking at the little account emojis, right? And a Chinese person probably or Asian person probably owns this account. This ain't your account. How'd you get into this account?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is my account.
Yeah.
But they couldn't believe it, and it was shocking to see that many people.
That reminded me of the episode of Dave Chappelle.
Like, what the hell?
Where they found out one of the Ku Klux members was black.
And it was crazy. He said, wipe out. His hat came off.
Head exploded.
Him.
They couldn't believe it.
Yeah. A black white supremacist.
Yeah.
Listen, that was crazy, but that's what happened.
Right.
And I was like, no, man. I said, listen, we have knowledge. We're not dumb. I said, you look at me and you think just because I'm black, I can't talk on these topics, fluently, and I can't really give you the knowledge and information and give you all these facts and details. I said, we can, and we will. And I said, and I will. I'm going to continue to do this.
Right.
And you'll find out and realize, yeah, this is really my account. And I just kept on, obviously. But, yeah, it's that old parable that talks about the fleas in the jar, right? You put fleas in the jar and you put a lid on top of the jar. The fleas are going to try to jump. Now, they could jump 10 times their, their body weight or whatever their height. But they can't jump out the jar if you put a lid on it. So they learn to never pass the height of that lid. And then you could take the lid off and leave them in there and they'll still not jump out of the jar because they've trained themselves now that that's the maximum they can go. So they only jump to the height of the top of the lid of the jar, even though there's no more lid. And so, unfortunately, as melanated people, as black people, we've been put into a situation where we had a jar and a lid was put on top. Even though now that lid is kind of removed, it's halfway open.
Right. The limits
it ain't
have
all
been
the way,
created.
but it's getting there. A lot of people, for generations, that those epigenetics have us programmed to think, oh man, we can't. There's no way we can do this. I can't get out there and become a phenomenon and teach people and embrace people. I can't get out there and create, content projects and films and documentaries, or I can't do this and I can't do that. But it's all self-limiting beliefs that are holding us back because it's that old one. Like again, another one, the elephant that was tied to the stake in the ground. And then, now this is a big elephant. The tent, this is a real story. The tent caught on fire. The elephant burned down with the tent because it thought that the stake was unbreakable. It couldn't take the stake out of the ground. This elephant can knock down an entire tree, lift up a car, but it wouldn't leave that stake. It wouldn't rip it out of the ground and run away from the fire. It burned down with the tent. And that's the mindset that we have. And it's really hard to break it, but little by little, the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, the work that others are doing, little by little, we're tearing that up and we're getting them reprogrammed so they can realize that they have the power to pull that stake out of the ground.
Right.
They have the power to take that lid off and jump out of that jar. But it's a slow process. And I think I've seen this before in this community where some people get frustrated that they feel like their work is going to waste, but it's not.
It's not.
You have to understand it's a very tedious and arduous process and it takes time and you have to be patient and you have to persevere and you have to be consistent. That's what I love about you, man. Your work is consistent. From the time I met you at Dame Dash Studios a few years ago until now, you told me what you wanted to do back then. And you laid it out and you've been knocking it down. Bam, 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 bam. You've been consistent through the hate, through the trolls, through whatever situation comes your way. We still persevere and we're showing people that, hey, look what we're doing. We have stuff coming at us. We have stuff attacking us all the time, but we're not going to let it stop us because we see the goal. We have a vision, and there is no cap. There is no sky's the limit. There is no universe the limit. It's unlimited. Abundance is unlimited. The multiverse is unlimited. And we're proving that by our actions and continuing to work and press on to bring people that information. And I think by doing that, that's how we literally get one mind reprogrammed at a time. And eventually that becomes a consciousness virus that takes over the entire planet.
But you know why I do that? Because I was made to.
Yeah, absolutely.
The most beautiful things. And it's funny because a lot of times you don't have enough time to talk about the nuance of your own thinking and how you view things, because a person can only perceive it from how they view what you're speaking on, right? And how they view you at sometimes. And so our perception of things and how we receive it are biased, right? But when I talk about melanin, I really look at it as a very cosmic thing, a metaphysical thing, but also look at the scientific properties of it. You know, like we're really made to take harsh radiation, absorb it, and turn it into something constructive as energy. And then we store that in our bodies. And you can tell because if we stand out in the sun, we get darker and darker and darker. That's radiation. But we have a permanent radiation, glow, radiating glow, right? And it shows in the hues of brown, right? And you got melanin in your brain, you got melanin in your eye, right? And it has so many effects. And so I was looking at this study about how, you know, human beings are affected by solar activity. It can affect your breathing patterns. It can affect your mood, emotions. This is a scientific study that was done. And then I'm like, how come we never talk about the correlating differences? Because, and I was positing that thought about breathing patterns and how spirit is breath and how, you know, when you exist with a certain pattern, right, it becomes a frequency, which can become a rhythm. And we're very rhythmatic people because we're naturally spiritual. But we are made because we condense light at a certain frequency and it gives us a rhythm. So we add breath, Ka, into everything that we speak, right? So when they had Terrence Howard on, you know, Joe Rogan's show, and he's speaking mathematics, but he's speaking it with spirit. He's speaking it with rhythm, but he has to because he's a melanated man, right? And so the fascination that everybody was having, the scientists was like, man, I don't know if what he's saying is true, but his ability to speak it, that's the most fascinating thing. They wanted to test that. And it's like, yes, you have to understand because we are spiritual, rhythmatic people based on our biology, based on how we were made. We can't help it. There's an even study where this linguist was breaking down how Black Ebonics is actually has a higher degree of difficulty, right, than, you know, standard English, right, that you would get at a institution like a professor, because he was explaining all of the different tenses as in it, right? All of the different situations in which it can be used, that by all the measurements of how they grade a language and the difficulty of it, and the reason he was getting into it was because it was easy for them to try to say that these people are dumb because they speak Ebonics or they lazy. When in reality, it had a higher degree of difficulty, right, inside the Ebonic language. And just because you didn't come up with it, right, and you're not a part of it, but trying to understand it would be harder, right? There's more moves, there's more tenses in it, there's more descriptions. I can say some things that me and you would understand. You feel me? You feel me? You feel me? See, even that
can be five things.
Exactly. But the average person wouldn't understand that unless they part of the membership of the culture. But I want us to get out of this thing that who we are and what we are is somehow limited. That's an inverse thinking, right? It's the opposite of what you actually think. It's actually your greatness, your ability to articulate and speak to each other like that. You know, you see somebody on the block like, yo, whoa, coming. That meant so much. Right? You can say that in different tenses and they would understand it as a different language. Doesn't mean you slow. That's the language you decided to communicate. I can speak in clicks and still as an advanced intellectual person because I can add meaning to whatever thing that I communicate. And so I want us to understand that our expression from our physical, our spiritual, our intellectual is high level, right? And I'm so deep on this subject, why I got you here, just because I see so much damage done to our minds. So much. And it's not just, of course, black people whatsoever. Society is crushed.
Yeah.
Identity politics has people dumbing down themselves to be a part of a cult.
Yeah.
Right?
A cult
Instead
is
of
the right
enlightening
word.
themselves.
I like the word you use, cult. Exactly.
Yeah. Politics is a cult.
Yes.
Right? But these cults have always been, they've worshiped leaders throughout time. But these leaders are part of the same system, and they fool the people to make you think that you're about to get a different leader. You're just getting a new master at a different plantation.
That's it, man. That's it. Literally. I mean, you hit it on the head. That's what people don't realize.
I want to talk about the Anunnaki a little bit.
Yeah.
But I got some other things I want to get to, but I got you here. So this is interesting, right? So I had the good brother, Dr. Wesley, on, and I told him I wanted to have you all sit down together as well, because he is a heavy challenger of the Zecharia Sitchin paradigm of the Anunnaki. And his breakdown, he believes that there are many things that he got wrong, which is why the common version that is spread is misinterpreted, right? And doesn't believe most of these things are malevolent in intention, right? But more so, it is the misinterpretation of it. So first, we was talking about, I believe, the word Anunnaki referring to the offspring of the bloodline of the gods versus referring to cosmic visitors from outer space.
Right.
So I want to kind of get your thoughts on the paradigm of what he talks about, the Arabia, those people at that time in ancient Iraq being very dark-skinned people in that area. And that area essentially was a part of Africa at that time. It's now, divided in different subsections. But as far as the way the people would look at Africa, that same area was still Africa. And there are darker people in Iraq, right, in Iran, that are not shown on TV whatsoever.
No.
So it doesn't click in the mind to be like, wait a minute, what do those people look like?
Yeah.
And again, we get back to the looks, not because it's this need that we have, but it's the truth. The truth has to be the highest order of the day.
Yeah.
Because it is the highest level of enlightenment to advance the people in the future.
Oh, facts. Oh, no doubt. And the Sumerian tablets call them the black-faced people.
Yeah.
So the tablets speak it. Now, his discrepancies with Zecharia Sitchin, I agree with that 100%. Zecharia Sitchin was, to me, a great researcher. He didn't decipher any tablets. The tablets that he used in his writings were already deciphered long before he decided to write these books. He took existing translations and he used his own interpretation to write the book, the Sitchin series of all those books. In his books, he has, every so many paragraphs, he has parentheses with the source for where he got the information from that part of the book. So his sources are listed throughout all of his books, every single one of them. So clearly, he is not a person that translated the text. He's only a person that took existing translations and he mixed in text from the Torah, the Bible, the Sumerian tablets, whether it was the Akkadian version, sometimes it's the Babylonian version, the Mahabharata, and other texts and other tablets, and he kind of came up with his own understanding. Now, depending on which version of the text you're looking at, whether it's Assyrian or Babylonian, you'll get whether it's the bloodline of the gods. Because one of my license plates is Anunnaki, okay, with one N in the middle. So instead of two, it's one. So Anunnaki.
Yeah.
And
so we are Anunnaki.
Oh, all of us are Anunnaki. Yeah, absolutely. So when you go and get the tag like that, they have a system that pulls up what that tag potentially could mean. So that when police look at it, they know what that tag means. Believe it or not.
They pulling over Anunnaki.
Yeah, they pull over Anunnaki. So they say bloodline of the gods.
Yeah, and they really pull up and they see Billy. Oh, shit. That's Billy. Yeah, fan. Like, oh, okay.
Listen, they don't, when I had that tag on my car, they never wanted to pull me over.
Yeah.
Because they're like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
This guy must be royalty from some prince or something, right? And driving in this $200,000, $300,000 car. So, but the point I'm making is, so there's a version of it that has that exact definition. Then there's another version of it that has those who came from heaven to earth, depending on Babylonian or Assyrian. And so it has both of those meanings. Which one do we go with? Actually, both are accurate because it is a royal bloodline that came to earth, according to the tablets. When you understand that these people believed that they were a royal bloodline and people were fighting for kingship, and this kingship You had to be in the bloodline to even challenge. And one guy wanted to challenge for kingship, and he wasn't in the bloodline. But they say, okay, we're going to have a hand-to-hand. He claimed some ancient oath, and they had this hand-to-hand combat. And the guy ended up losing anyway. He ended up getting killed, pretty much. But he wasn't in the bloodline anyway. So the point I'm making is, yeah, it's still descended from a royal bloodline, and it's still, according to the other part of the text, those who came from heaven to earth. So depending on if you want to go hardcore left or right, it could be either or you can see, like I see both as blended, because it's really coming from the same region and the same culture, just over different periods of time. And so many tablets have been lost or not discovered. Which one actually is it? I kind of, to me, based on reading enough of the tablets, believe that it's talking about both. That we are all descendants of this bloodline that engaged mankind thousands of years ago. And, you know, what people tend to think is that I'm talking about little green men.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking about me, you, and everybody else in this room right now, right? That's who the royal bloodline is. That's who the aliens are. I think that Hollywood has projected this image of aliens, and the people have taken that image.
Prometheus is the palest man on the planet Earth.
Right, exactly.
Planet Nibiru.
Yeah. And guess where that Prometheus story came from?
Yeah.
It came from the Epic of Atrahasis, and some of it came from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. They took those 2 tablets and those 2 creation stories, and they turned it into the Prometheus movie exactly, except for what it said these people look like in that regard. But that is the Prometheus movie. It comes from those tablets directly. Right. The whole slaughtering and the blood and all that, it's identical to the Epic of Atrahasis.
And that's why we living in an inverse reality.
Yeah.
You inverse your phone, your white background goes black.
Right.
Whatever color it is, it will go to the opposite.
Right.
And they understood that there was this magical spell that they could put over people if they inversed them. Make a tall man feel like he's a small man.
Right.
Make a strong man feel like he's a weak man. Make a black man a white man a black man.
Right.
If they inverse the reality, they can control the narrative, they can control the truth, and they can control the way you think and the way you feel, because only the truth will allow you to ascend the ladder.
Back.
Only the truth. You can have a close version, right?
Yep.
Something but if it's not the truth,
Yeah.
there's limitations that you have. And see, the world is at this point where we don't really want the truth. We want a version of it that is comfortable enough that allows us to absorb it. But it's like, if there's some people say Socrates was black. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Let's say Socrates, pure
Yeah.
Aryan white man.
Yeah.
I can accept that.
Yeah.
He's a great philosopher.
Hey.
I don't need to change him black.
Give him his flowers.
We got enough black men, and ancient melanated people for the actual reality to be the reality.
Yeah.
But when you want to steal someone else's greatness so that you can absorb it, but look how powerful that is, though, because if in 1,000 years, Billy Carson and 19 Keys, they AI this and we white men, and you a young white child, you going to be looking at this and be like, man, them is some smart, great white men. I want to be just like them.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Now, that you can understand, because at some point in time, people probably going to have AIs like that. Where it's like, give me the same conversation, but I want them Chinese.
Right. Yeah. Fact.
Right? And they going to be speaking that language. But look what that would do for the confident of the image of that child being able to reflect and see themselves in that. So they then want to become that archetype themselves.
Right. They'll aspire to that.
Exactly.
We're going to aspire to what we see. And when we see ourselves only as slaves or janitors or whatever it is on TV, in the ghetto, in the hoods, fighting and killing each other, we're going to manifest that reality because that's what we've been programmed to see. So we're going to believe that's what we're supposed to be. I grew up growing up in Miami in Opelika. I grew up in a very bad neighborhood. Opelika's unincorporated day near the Opelika airport, right off 22nd Avenue. And the neighborhood was just, it was bad. People would be killed right across the street from my house. A guy gets shot in the head. To the left, this guy gets sliced and cut 100 times. The crossing guards would rob us on the way to school. The crossing guards are stealing your money or your lunch, depending on which one you had. We had to sneak into the school by going around back roads to come into the back gate where there wasn't a crossing guard. And the people, now I look back at the people that I grew up with in that time period and see where they are now. A lot of them succumb to that mindset and stay within that environment. A lot of them are dead, locked up. A very good friend of mine is paralyzed right now. He can't move, he got shot in the back. So they succumbed to that environment because they believed that that was reality. Fortunately for me, I didn't believe that was my reality. And I broke my chains at an early age. I'm one of the fortunate ones. I was looking outside at all them people going to the ice cream truck, and I realized, how are they getting this money? And I don't have money to get to the ice cream truck. So I felt bad about myself for a minute, but I said, you know what? I got to do something about this. At 7 years old, I went and took my toys. I'm sorry, 8 years old. At 8 years old, I went and took all my toys. I put them in a Winn-Dixie milk crate and went door to door asking for donations, selling my toys. When I got back around the corner, I had $13 in change in my hand. And at that moment, I had an epiphany. I realized that I was going to save myself and that this didn't have to be my status quo. I can get out of this. I can leave this area. And my mom saw me staring out the window like a gaze. And she said, "What's wrong, son?" And I said, "I don't belong here. I just don't belong here, and I'm getting out." And she knew right then exactly what I meant, that I was going to break this chain of this mental prison that's keeping everybody thinking this is reality, and I was going to get out of there. And I moved at 16, and I just kept moving and moving and moving further and further away to the point where now I'm all the way, about 80 miles away from that neighborhood now. But I was one of the fortunate ones that was able to realize this formula that I came up with. CT multiplied by A equals M. Conscious thought multiplied by action equals manifestation. You have the power to control and change your own reality tunnel, but only if you have the conscious thought that you can do it and then put action behind the thought. A lot of people get the thoughts, these are my dreams, but they never put in the action steps. And the action steps is where they miss out on the manifestation. And they're always saying, if I could, if I would, one day I will. I said, no, I'm going to do this, and I did it now. And that action and me experiencing that exercise of me actually doing that and getting out of my comfort zone to do it, it set me on a whole new trajectory in life where I believe I can achieve everything.
Do you believe Jesus was an alien?
I do. And I can say it in this way because sometimes people may think by saying he's an alien, it's disrespectful.
Yeah. Well, Yahweh was an alien?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yahweh is Enlil from the Sumerian tablets. Same person, right?
How do you denote that Yahweh is Enlil?
Well, you go by the text and the tablets, and you realize the description of the person is identically the same when you realize that the biblical version of Yahweh is copied word for word from older Sumerian tablets. We know the Bible was written 100 AD to 900 AD. So let's go back 6,000 to 8,000 years, and all of a sudden you see the same story, but the person's name is Enlil from ancient Sumeria, from Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates River. It's the same story, but the name has changed. Why? Because this is the guy. Yahweh is Enlil. Jesus is a real conundrum because, first of all, when you read some of the books that were left out of the Bible, it's called the Apocrypha text. The Council of Nicaea orchestrated how the Bible was going to be created, what they wanted to have in it, what they didn't want in it. Nobody sat down and wrote the Bible in real time. There was nobody walking around with Jesus going, "Say that one more time, Jesus. I didn't quite get that last sentence you said." Or, that didn't happen. The Bible was written after Jesus was dead, creating prophecies a lot easier because I can create a prophecy. I can say, I'm going to prophesy, I'm going to lift my hand in the sky. Oh, my hand's up. I just fulfilled the prophecy. So what happened was people found texts and tablets that were copied from even older texts and tablets hidden in caves and so forth around the region. And they began to culminate them and put them all together. Eventually, they had this huge cache of information, and then they cultivated it and picked out what they wanted to use to create the Bible. But when you look at the Apocrypha text, that's a text that they put out of they kept out of the Bible. There's a couple of texts that are really interesting. One of them you find out about Jesus's grandmother, which is Mary's mother. She was a virgin birth. So we're talking about artificial insemination. Then all of a sudden, Mary's a virgin birth. That's artificial insemination. Then you have Jesus. His real name is actually Yeshua. Jesus is actually not a real name. The J wasn't even invented until, I forget what year it was, 1800 and something or whatever. J is a new letter.
Yeah.
What they're saying is Isus. And what does Isus mean? It means Hail Zeus. And who is Zeus? Enlil from the Sumerian tablets.
So let me play God's advocate on this one. All right, so what if it's like how there are not even ancient, there are past revolutionaries who have a messianic figure, right? mentality,
Yeah.
going against a regime that is corrupt. And they become revolutionaries to want to tear down the system. And you see a lot of correlating, right, life paths between these type of archetypes. So what if it's that every civilization gets them a Yahweh, right? And because of the way that civilizations grow and developed, there's always going to be certain archetypes that's going to grow, develop, and challenge that. And usually they have the same sort of stories and conditions and variables that make them to be as such. So they develop this messianic-like personality and consciousness, and this is why the stories are similar.
That's a good point. And you can't take anything away from that point, because I believe that actually happens. It's just in this one particular case with the virgin births, you see the connection between that and the birth of Horus, which was also a virgin birth, Dionysus. So you see this virgin birth correlation over different time periods, same exact story. And then if you look at the life of Jesus, which is documented to actually exist in Africa, I take people to Coptic Cairo when I take them to Egypt, and we go to the crypt where his body was, where he used to sleep at night with his mom. And it's like a holy place now, right? Because he was there. And they showed the whole tract that he'd gone down and visited throughout Egypt. What was he there for? He was there to learn the Egyptian mysteries. He disappears out of the Bible at the age of 12 and reappears at the age of 32. Where did he go? Where is Jesus at? He's in Egypt at this time, and he's learning the Egyptian mysteries. Not only that, he then travels to Tibet to learn healing with his hands, Qigong and Reiki, which is confirmed by the Dalai Lama. He then travels down into India to learn the mystic arts, teaching what? Reincarnation all the way back. Then the Bible picks up and says, I called my son out of Egypt. And then he shows up in Jerusalem riding in on the back of a donkey. And so that's the missing part. Where's that text located where I just told you? The Gospel of the Holy 12. It didn't quite make it into the biblical text because that they didn't want you to get those ideas of where he got all this power and understanding of energy movements and how to heal and all this and the mystic arts. They don't. That's devil. That's Satan. So we're not going to leave that in. We want to paint a different image of this man. And so in the Gospel of Holy 12, you discover information that should have been in the biblical text, but was by accident, on purpose, left out. But again, when you look at my book, Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, in there I list the words of Thoth from ancient Kemet and the words of Jesus from the New Testament. How come the words of Jesus are matching with words from 36,000 years ago, verses from 36,000 years ago in the Emerald Tablets?
Maybe there was a bloodline that carried the knowledge, and not just in the blood, but if there's secret orders throughout time, right? Maybe they carried it, and his father had the knowledge, and he taught Jesus to be a part of that order.
Facts. That's exactly where I'm going with this. So this information, these ideas and concepts that he was teaching, a lot of them weren't original ideas.
Right, because I mean, that's what we do today, right?
Exactly.
You can travel around the world now with the tablet, though, with your phone.
Right.
Right? So you can be in the pocket of the internet, which represents a thought sphere that you get to pull from. These people are talking about immortalism and how to resurrect the dead. These people are teaching me about the Banda locks on the body and breathing patterns and how I can unlock light in the mind, right? These people over here are talking about how you're supposed to connect spiritual technology to be able to reach ascended levels. And then, but you're still in one location. You have a certain ethnic background, right? But now you have knowledge of past and forward, right? You have a circular knowledge from peoples around the world. But it would be more difficult, of course, during that time because you would either have to physically travel, which then there's the time consumption in that, right? Then you have to have wealth to be able to do that and protection throughout all these lands. And or you can be a part of a council or circle or order that has this knowledge stored and your bloodline has access to it.
Facts. And that's why I say he's either Thoth or is a descendant of Thoth.
Right.
In some way, shape, or form, or have been taught by the same mystery schools so Thoth started the mystery schools in ancient times, and that information was passed down through adept initiates only. He also, another third option, could have been one of those adept initiates that got this specific knowledge. And he was only regurgitating what he had learned and what he had experienced through the mystery schools. And I don't think it has anything to do with being the creator of the entire universe. I just don't believe that. A lot of people call on Jesus for everything. They want to turn Jesus into a slave.
Yeah, Jesus
I
is
like
like
to-
Uber, man.
I like
Call
to
him
have
for
my
everything.
football team need to win the, my football team need to win the Super Bowl. They have a prayer for that. Warriors in war, they pray to beat their enemies. People pray to get a house. I don't believe that the creator of the universe is going, oh, wait a minute, somebody down there on that little blue dot just said they needed their team to win. Let me fly back over there and grant them a wish.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially if the other team is for the same thing.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to that belief system. I do believe there's a God, and I believe there's a creator of this universe. I think the science and the mathematics proves it without a doubt. That I'm convinced of.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe that the one written in a lot of these books is truly the creator of the universe, specifically also a man proclaiming to be the creator of all or connected to the creator of all in some way. I think that one thing we have to take into account is a lot of this information was written by flesh and blood people. Who are the writers of the biblical text? The Phoenicians. Who were the Phoenicians? Followers of who? Thoth, Tahuti. So you have these people copying ancient tablets onto parchment paper that eventually ends up becoming canonized biblical text. And these people themselves were followers of Tahuti.
Mm.
I mean, come on.
So what? All right. So have you ever heard of Saint Germain?
Yeah.
So I seen Dr. Wesley wrote about Saint Germain. Like, I forgot how many years he said his book came out. Like 15, 14 years ago.
Wow.
It was a long time ago. And it's funny. My mom, she had got his book, and I told him that was the first time I had heard of him because he has got a book called The Encyclopedia Proof That the Black Man is God. And that was the first time I ran into conversations about the Anunnakis and things in ancient Sumeria, right, and things of that nature. But when you go back into it and you start thinking about, okay, what, number one, the bloodlines, you start thinking about who is that thread of bloodline on this planet Earth, right? Because first of all, we know that all of the presidents come from the same bloodline, right? Yeah. They all cousins, right? This has been done. This has been shown, right? But before that, all of the royal families, that's their practice bloodlines. You go look at Game of Thrones, the dragons, they talk about the different bloodlines, right? They was with their cousins, you feel me? Because they try and keep it within the family. So there's certain genes that continue to get passed down. Right now, we've completely lost that sacred science of being able to understand how to genetically create and control the future. And what I mean by that is if, we come from the same order of thought and enlightenment and the same school of mysteries, we say, okay, well, I'm going to have my son, I'm going to teach him this knowledge. Yep. You're going to have your daughter, you're going to teach her that knowledge. Then they're going to come together and have a baby, and then they teach him that knowledge. Mm-hmm. So now these are two families, but now if we plan this, right, for their children plans the same way, we're planning the next 1,000 years just through our children. Facts. Right? So through bloodlines, you can control the future. Because what I put in myself, right, is what is transferred through my DNA as information. So whether it's written on paper, right, doesn't matter because it's written in me. So what you literally are inheriting from your mother and your father and your grandparents and so on, that's literally being downloaded in every child that they create. So then you would think, all right, how many generations of us downloading this information till we get to the point where we create one? That one that is above the rest that creates the change. So anyway, I asked you about Saint Germain because Dr. Wesley had wrote about him in his book years ago and how he was a part of one of those bloodlines. And for those who don't know, this character is who most of the vampire movies and shows are written about, right? Interview with a Vampire or whatever you can really think of, because he was this character that was documented in historical data, and he would even counsel queens and dignitarians and people of that nature, but he had a knowledge forward and backward of the past and the future. And he would show up in different places in these texts as they would document, you know what I mean, to where he spoke multiple languages. He understood mathematics and science and medicine, right? And so they're trying to figure out, how did this figure exist in well-documented ways? Some people said they'd never seen him eating. He was like a vampire, but he was supposedly a part of an order, a bloodline, to where he knew how to live. And they said that he was an ascended master to where he could live for hundreds and hundreds of years. Now, these are not common stories that we task ourselves with and we teach and we know about because modern man is mostly lost. But these are stories that are documented for anybody that wants to know. So imagine you going to the ancient school of mysteries and this is what they teaching you about.
Yeah.
Then they teaching you how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what the problem is that we think so instant nowadays.
Yeah.
Because you have to think everything in those times required way more time than it does today.
Way more time.
Cooking, the time, it was women would cook in the house. It was a whole day's task.
Yeah.
Right? They created the modern industry, right, to give families more time. Because now you can condense the time that's being spent in the kitchen, right? And now you can go get free fried food or fast freeze food instantly, and it changes the dynamics of the family. But before that, before the modern revolution, right, of the American food industry changed the whole entire world, everything was much slower. From the way we talk, the way we eat, the way we plan. We always plan years because everything was slower. It wasn't until technology and communication and all of these things came that sped up our ideas much quicker. And now we're in the instant space.
Facts.
You could think of something right now and you can have it done in a day or in a month. Like we're building 3D homes right now in days.
Right. Days. 3 days, you can have a whole home. That's what they're doing. And with the over time, you could see, like, for example, in the biblical text, Gospel of the Holy 12, from the age of 12 to 32, it took Yeshua, that's his real name, not Jesus, all that time to go get that knowledge.
Yeah.
If it was in this modern time, he could probably do that in a couple years. But the travel, the time it took to travel, and it just everything took.
But think
more
about
time.
like the development of your character throughout that time.
True. That's something you can't get in this sped up world. You just can't get it.
People want to instantly turn water to wine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a process of fermentation of that wisdom that I'm about to make 1,000-mile journey to go get a book.
Right. Literally.
A book, and all the thoughts you have along the journey itself. Man, you going through deserts, you on camels, you thirsty, you moving through all of this, like just thinking about the traveling experience and the type of character you had to have to even seek knowledge that was so far out the way. This became who you were.
Right.
You were just a seeker of truth and knowledge.
That's it.
You didn't have anything else you did. You didn't have some side hustle over here. You were just a man of knowledge.
And there were a lot of people like that back then. You had the Library of Alexandria and in Egypt, and that library actually existed. And in order for you to even dock your boat in that area, you had to come with books. Books was your payment to come into the library. You had to bring knowledge with you. And people traveled from all over the world to come and get this knowledge. When you really analyze and break down some of the historical records and some of the verbal handed down history of some of the people from that area, I discovered that the Library of Alexandria didn't burn down with all the knowledge. That there was a fire, but the fire was a distraction, that the majority of the important knowledge was stolen and swept away. One of the largest knowledge heists in history. And a lot of those books are inside the Vatican archive right now.
And they supposedly supposed to be uploading that sometime soon.
Yeah.
We'll see if they let it all out. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's crazy.
They got to make sure it ain't nothing, you feel me, to give y'all too much power, though.
I know.
Anytime you like, because it's also at this point in time where it's like the Vatican Library diminishes in value the more we get interconnected with all this knowledge around the planet Earth. Because the value of having a library like that is that you got everything in one central place. But now we have knowledge. We have access to knowledge that is spread across the planet.
Instantly.
So it doesn't, so physical books being in one place is saying that they got knowledge of math, science, places all across the planet, maps, things of that nature. Well, that's great. But you got to understand now you have an iPhone that has access to knowledge forward and backward in time, right? All across this geographical planet Earth. Philosophies, ideologies, stats, statistics, whatever you need. It is here and it is directly for you. But the problem is we have too much. We got way more than we need.
Information overload.
Right.
And so what's happening is people are getting so much information that it's actually shutting them down. They can't absorb all the knowledge. They can't discern all the knowledge. They don't understand how to allow integration time, to apply integration time with knowledge So they're taking all this information with no discernment, and they think they can just use it or regurgitate it. And a lot of the times it leads them down the wrong path, or sometimes they get so much information, they shut down. I've seen people in recent times become a little off-kiltered, if I could say, a little off. They got so much knowledge now, they're not even normal anymore. Normal being, not that I'm normal, but normal in the sense that they've gone a little bit over the gray line to the other side now.
Right.
And it's hard to reel them back in. And so there needs to be an integration process. Sometimes I'll read text or information on philosophy or science, and I'll just sit back. I might take 2 days on that information.
Yeah.
I take my time.
Processing.
Yeah, stuff comes out. How come you're not talking about this yet? I need time to learn it and integrate it.
I think you hit it on the head. I remember when Terrence Howard had his interview, it took me a while to give my full thoughts on it because, number one, things are speeding up so much. I need to sit down and know what I really think.
Right.
I might be influenced by something you said. Right. And I'm like, is that my actual original, like the way my mind works and craft thoughts and ideas? And I took my time, and then one day, it just came to me. Oh, this is the way I see it. Boom. This is what's happening from my perspective, right? And then when I put it out there, of course, everybody resonated with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it for the way what you want me to say, popular opinion, unpopular opinion, as well as my original thought. And that was the beauty of philosophers.
Yes.
They'll give you an original idea, perspective on something that wasn't shared amongst the common, right? And so they will have the uncommon task of, there's no point of me even speaking if I can't add anything relevant or useful or new to the conversation. A philosopher that is redundant is not a philosopher at all. Right? We have AI machines for that. But when you do, and this is why people should be our minds should be even more beautiful during these times, because now if we really take time to process what's going on, who we are, where we are, all of the richness that we have, and we really think for a minute and then speak, it should sound like poetry. It should sound like the smartest people ever existed.
Yeah, man.
And that is the age that we have to move to. We have to have an age where the average is the intellect.
Exactly.
Right? Where we speak in a poetic manner, right? We think in a poetic manner. We guide ourselves and have discussions based on the virtues of humanity and where we want the soul of humanity to go forward. We talk about, future as the present, as we talk about utopian ideas. And when we draw from the past, it's to get the best of it and to learn from the worst of it. So that means that we should be such a beautifully advanced, see, I used to say new culture. I want an advanced culture. I want people that are advanced in mathematics and spiritual sciences and spiritual mathematics. I want people that are advanced in linguistics. I want people that are advanced in being able to research data, people that are advanced in architecture. You can point me back to any people on planet Earth. They were special for their time. I don't think they would be as special during this time. I believe we are special for this time.
Yeah, that's facts. We're light years ahead. I mean, in every aspect. People try to compare. A very strange metaphor would be the current Olympic team versus the 1992 Olympic team. Well, at that time, there was only probably less than a dozen NBA players playing on other teams around the world. Now there's over 60 players playing on teams around the world that are in the NBA. So NBA players are going against NBA players. So I can see that I lived through both of these different cycles, so I could see the difference, and I could tell, not taking anything away from the dream team. They did a phenomenal job, and you can't rob them of that. But at the end of the day, this team, people want to be so critical because, well, the rest of the world is stepping up. There's this rise, there's this elevation of knowledge, understanding, in their case, training and basketball IQ. But you can apply it to every area of life, and you'll see that what was going on in the 1980s. I was watching a black and white TV, breakdancing on cardboard, running around with holes in my shoes, and my dad had an 8-track player in his car. Right? And we barely got to use that because even that was broken. So now, fast forward into the future, I mean, it's streaming. It's streaming music. There's no more 8-track players, right? We have abundance. We can put on good shoes and good clothes. We have an 85-inch flat screen, a 120-inch movie theater. You know what I'm saying? And so, but everything is elevating and everything is transforming, right? But right now, humanity is on a track to where I don't care who you are, where you are, specifically in America, there's almost no excuse. There are some excuses that some people can have, and I hate to use the word excuse, depending on what situation or what, it could be, because there are people that have been abducted or in a house where they're chained to the ground in the basement. But for the most part, the masses, there's no excuse why you can't get information, get knowledge, apply it, and utilize it. In the last Olympics, there was a black man who was in the javelin, and he qualified for the Olympics, and they were talking to him, and they said, "Where's your coach?" He said, "I don't have a coach." They said, "You're in the Olympics and you don't have a coach?" He said, "How did you learn how to throw the javelin?" He said, "I watched YouTube." He watched YouTube videos and became an Olympic javelin track and field guy. So what does that tell you? Everything we need is at our fingertips. Most people don't have computers anymore. Most of these younger generation, they only have their phones and tablets. That's it. That's all they need. Everything is right there at the tip of their fingers, but yet they still ask questions. And people have to understand the power that they wanted, that the Hopi tribe predicted a long time ago. See, when I read this Hopi prophecy before the internet existed, I knew that if I can live long enough to where this really happened, the prophecy was one day the world will be connected by a world wide web, and information will travel to and fro instantaneously. And I said to myself, if I can live till that age occurs, the world is going to hear my message, and I made it.
That's so powerful, because when you was talking about the kid with the YouTube video watching the javelin being thrown, it's really, I think we really not appreciating what that is for real.
Oh man.
Because it'll be easy to understand if I told you a story in ancient times where this kid had this, and nobody would train him for anything. He couldn't afford the training whatsoever. It was only for the wealthy elite's children. And then one day, this unassuming traveler came in town, and he heard the child talking about how he wished he could play in his games, but he's poor and he can get nobody to teach him. And the traveler goes in and he hands him over this tablet. And he said, on here, you can watch, you can observe, and you can study everything that they have to tell you, right? And you too can become great if you want to. And this child went by himself and he watched it every single day. And he studied it every single day. He learned the techniques. He got better every single day. And then one day he was able to go amongst the top in the world and even compete and even beat them. Now, we would understand that like, man, that's magical. You feel me? But we have that same ability, but we lack focus.
Right.
We lack, okay, what do I want to do with all of this? It's a million things to do. All you need is one.
Yeah.
Right? There's literally, everybody started talking about this aura points that the little shooters was getting and stuff. Which is funny because it was this meme where they showed the one kid who was standing like this. Then it was like, this the Gen Z versus the millennial. Where the other dude, the Gen X, he just like this, like a shooter. You feel me? But they was talking about, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, how we got a shooter competition? There ain't no black people in it.
Right.
We gonna make it look cool for real. Y'all think this cool? Wait till we learn that we can shoot and get to the Olympics. Y'all done messed up. These little phones, man, showing us some stuff about the world.
Everything.
And that's why this younger generation, they're seeded with so much knowledge and power, because they have the processing of their minds is different, right? You would think it's wisdom, but what it is they have so much, and this is what you can understand. Like if you are a parent that's a millennial, imagine all the information that you've downloaded throughout time, and then you pass that down to a child. It wasn't always like that.
Right.
Most people were simple. Not even if you understand it, it's in you. They have a foundation.
Yeah.
There, you go back to the 30s, the simple man working at a mechanic shop or a factory didn't have knowledge of spirituality and consciousness and cosmism and Anunnakis and politics. They didn't know all of this. Barely literate. So what they were passing down was probably the merit of their character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The virtues of their soul, their work ethic, habit, some of their traumas and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But not this vast library of data and information and exposure to things that they've seen. So we're condensed packages of data, right? Being passed down from just your mom and dad. Not we going all the way back to what ancient thought knew.
Right.
We saying that your son say, man, my dad was Billy Carson.
Right.
My children like, my dad was 19 Keys.
Right.
You feel me? So that's why this generation has so much already in them. They're the most condensed generation on the planet Earth.
yeah.
And as we keep going, it gets even more condensed through every generation.
Yeah.
Like all of our experiences, right, that we pass down to the next generation,
Yeah.
we're currently going through a so-called world recession.
Mm.
We done went through pandemics. We going through the craziest political time ever to live in. We're going to experience all of the things that we've heard about in books. We actually get to see and experience now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get to see Rome fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You get to see technology being invented and manifested in new industries disappear and come back, and new ways of money systems, new languages, everything you can think of. You got to do is look around and observe.
Yeah.
The universe is flooded with things.
Yeah.
So now you have to stop and you have to make a choice. What do I want to do with my time here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be so many different things. They're telling you should focus on being a general master of things, because general mastery is more required during the time that we're living in. Right. But you do have to have a focus.
Yeah.
And if you can't start with a focus, your eyes are trying to look at everything at once, but we're not wired for that.
No.
Right? Our eyes are wired to focus.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm looking at you, I have peripheral vision. That's fine. But my eyes is focused on you. I see you. Now, what is that thing that you're focused on? He decided that all the things in the world that this is on this tablet, I want to look at javelins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to just study that, and I'm going to become that. And then he projected that. As you looking and you're listening, what are you grabbing to where it's adding on to what you're doing and what you're becoming? Because society has to go away from the ambitions of our external projections of what we want and how we use that to showcase who we are, to aspirational ambitions on what we want to become and how we want to be remembered.
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about is people, these younger generations, they have to learn how to find their passion.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to so much, it's information overload.
Right.
And they're they're kind of good at so many things, but not great at one thing.
Right.
And so the thing that these kids need to understand is the flashy stuff, the money and all of that, that's not where it's at. It's all about finding your passion. Because when you find your passion and you then develop that passion and become great at that passion, and then you find a need for what you're passionate about in the world, you find people that need it or companies that need what you're passionate about, then you exchange that energy with them. And when you exchange your energy with that company or that customer, money is just a side effect. So you don't chase the money. You don't worry. I never worry about money. I only chase my passion. I follow my passion. My passion is spreading information, sharing knowledge, and building platforms and finding solutions to problems. And so by doing that, just the act of doing that, that energy exchange is creating money as a side effect, as it should, because we're living in a financial matrix that requires that monetization. And so if they can understand that the most important thing for them to do is stop being so diluted, focusing on what they really want. And how you can do that is simple. Open up their tablet and start texting on that tablet, writing on that tablet, the things that they're most passionate about, things they like, things they would like to do, things that they think they can do pretty good already. And then once they get that random list, then sort it and put it in order as number one through how many ever. And what's the top one? What's the next one? What's the next one? And then analyze and break that list down and then figure out, how close am I to being able to do this one thing now, or that thing now, or this talent or skill set now? And if you're really passionate about something that you have on the list that you're not good at yet, what will it take for me to develop to become great at that thing? And once they start hyper-focusing in that way, they develop that passion, it grows, and now the next key is finding a need for that passion in the world and exchanging that gift with someone else. And that generates revenue and income for them. And they'll never feel like they're working a day in their life because they're living in their passion.
So how does, I know this generation, they go heed the advice, but they want the spicy stuff.
Yeah.
They want to know how to unlock the Kundalini. They want to know how you tap into the light consciousness of the eye. They want to know how you develop the clairaudience and clairvoyance. They want that.
Yeah.
So, and like, I hear you, Billy. I'll crack this damn third eye. You feel me? So how as for the younger generation, where's the starting place for these young rebellious spirits that want to ascend this ladder? So let's take them through. You develop this light consciousness and you get this, and then let's take them through how you apply it, because the danger is sometimes of cracking that, right? And your mind having access to that amount of energy, right? It can split your consciousness to where you have a bipolar effect almost a little bit. People are trying to live in the matrix and out of the matrix at the same time. And that's why instant gratification is not good. It has to be a process, because you have to understand what's going on. You can break a person's mind as they try to break out the matrix. You can tell a person too much, too quick, and they can explode some neurons in their brain, and them pathways don't work the same way anymore.
That's right.
So that's why it is dangerous to just give a child all of this information, and then they become addicted to the stimulation of receiving info, but not actually having the mind to process it, because the psychological wholeness is not there. So let's go into the psychic wholeness. Let's talk about cracking that third eye, and then let's talk about the psychology of how to maturely develop it, right? So that it can be pointed as a laser.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that these children have to do, or I don't call them children, but these young adults have to do, they have to learn how to meditate and sit with themselves. Right now, everything is moving so fast. A lot of them can't sit with themselves for 5 minutes without fidgeting, grabbing a screen, looking for something. So they have to learn how to sit with themselves and be quiet and silent and sit with themselves and get comfortable sitting with themselves.
Yeah.
They have to learn how to love themselves. A lot of these people, they don't realize they truly don't have any self-love yet. They don't really even know what that means. And how they're going to get that? By tapping into meditation, by doing breath work. And there's a lot of breathwork meditation videos they can tap into. I've got several breathwork meditations on Forbidden Knowledge that some are 4 hours long. You can get them on YouTube for free or whatever. But getting into the breath, because like you said earlier, breath is life. It's your direct connection.
Breath is key.
That's it. Breath is key. And so they got to get into the breathwork, the breathwork meditation, getting into that, sitting with themselves, being and understanding the patience and the time that it takes to develop that ability to sit with themselves for extended periods of time and tap into that meditation. A lot of the times, just that alone will wake up the third eye. Just that alone. Now, of course, drinking toxic, energy drinks and eating a lot of candy and snacks and all of that, that's only going to be detrimental to you really having any true long-term effect. You got to kind of almost change your diet to a more healthy diet. You got to imagine, what were the ancients doing when they were tapping into these higher levels of consciousness? Did they have Doritos and Coca-Cola? I don't think they had that.
No, they had no damn Doritos.
That's right. So you have to mimic success. And so when you say mimic success, well, what were they eating at that time period? Because I want to copy that. Whatever it was all organic. Okay, well, damn, I got to go all organic.
They were sipping on that gold.
Yeah, monoatomic gold water, right? Getting that into the system. It's firing up the neurons processes in the brain, understanding how that works. And so all of those things. And so you have to say to yourself, what am I doing wrong right now that I can't get into that level that they were getting into back then? I'm not copying everything they did back then. What they did then worked, so don't reinvent the wheel. So I need to copy the diet. I need to copy the mindset. I need to copy the actions and activities to some extent that they were doing if I want to get a similar result. And a lot of it was sitting in silence with themselves, something that most people today just can't do. The next thing they have to understand is that it's a process, and to be patient, and it takes time to grow consciously, not to be like, as you say, all sped up, wanting instantaneous gratification. There's a process to the ascendance, to becoming an ascended master or an adept initiate, and getting the knowledge. And like you and I do, Keys, we sit back and we might meditate on it for a couple of days, a week maybe, even before we speak on it. I'm not one of these grab the headline and post it. Unless I know something about it personally, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if I'm not really versed in it like I think, or I have, like you say, different opposing opinions, or let me check into it deeper to see how real or not real this is, I want to meditate on this. If I grab some serious scientific knowledge and it's really like earth-shattering, I might dig into that a little deeper and see what other things it's connected to, before I tap into it and speak on it. So they have to understand that there's this process of integration that needs to take place. It can't be just, I meditated for 1 hour. I'm ready now. My pineal gland's open and I'm ready to download the knowledge from the universe. It ain't that simple. Patience is key.
Well, they addicted to it.
Yeah.
You know, you told me that you ain't never smoked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, never did no psychedelics.
No.
No ayahuasca, no changa, no iboga root.
No.
You know what I mean? No toad.
Nope.
No.
And I don't have anything against them. I just didn't want to rewire my brain.
Right.
Because I know that those will rewire your brain. People can get addicted to those things too. If you do it once and it has a good effect on you, I think that's great. Maybe even a couple times, but each time requires integration, an integration process or period. I think some people just do it just for fun now, and that's not my thing.
I agree. And that's the point I'm getting to. People are addicted to the download, but they're not truly allowing it to integrate with themselves in the sense that they actually go out and apply it.
Right.
In some useful manner. Because as creatives, you know, there's a scientific study that showcased why creatives are slow to act on things, right? Because they first have to get an inspiration for it.
Yeah.
While somebody that's non-creative, they may start work immediately. While creative is going to wait to draw from an inspirational place. So that may come as you're moving about, that may come as you cleaning up, may come as you're researching, but you have to wait till that inspiration comes to you. You can't force it. And that's how I am with a lot of different things. I can't force things. If I don't feel it, then I can't do it. If I don't have a vision for it, then I can't birth it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have a womb. I get birthed in my mind. I get a vision. Right? All right, now I'm ready. Now my will is ready to be undisrupted until I complete this 100%. And anybody that's in my way, they roadkill.
Right.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
But I've had some psychedelic experience. My first time talking about it on high level conversations. That's why I'm in my
You zen now.
Yeah. that ain't what got me zen. But I've had some downloads through it. But I'm not the type of person that has an addictive personality.
Yeah.
I know some people that try it, and then they go over and over and over and over and over.
That's what I'm talking about.
And there's a lot of people who are addicted to motivation.
Right.
Right? You're going to another motivational seminar every single day, and it's like, you don't have a motive to act.
Right.
So if I'm getting downloads, right, going into different dimensions, because I've been through some different dimensions, and I've seen some stuff, but I also realize, like, most of the time they tell me, bro, you know you already know.
Yeah.
I be up there, and they be like, you ain't even had to visit us to tell you this. They be like, it's good to see you again, but you all, come on, man. You keep making, they be like, you keep playing this game where you make yourself forget so you have something to do.
Right.
That's how they talk to me.
Wow.
You feel me? And
Yeah.
I say they because as my mind projects whatever
Yeah.
it
That's
is,
your higher
but-
self talking to you.
Yeah. And I go through, I've been through all of the different levels and different dimensions of it, to where you go to the fractal universe, to where you seeing geometrical shapes, until it's bringing down to the emotional universe, and to there's visual pictures that you can see, and then there's ideas, and as you going down and you come back into your person, and what you realize is that all I was trying to do is get back to knowing that I already know.
Right.
Because I believe we believes too much. And we don't know enough.
Right.
And knowing is powerful, more powerful than belief.
Facts.
Right? And so we know that the sun is going to come up. I ain't got to believe in the sun.
Right.
But most people believe in themselves, but they don't know themselves. Right? And this generation don't know themselves.
Right.
So you can motivate yourself all day. You can do all these things. You can smoke all your weed. You can do all of those things. Ultimately, it's going to bring you to the highest form of enlightenment, which is to be. To be who?
Yeah.
Be you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so what you're trying to do is strip all these other things that's not you, the worries, the doubts, the fears, and then get to this place to where, I know.
Yeah.
And the doubts, I think they kill everything. And most people, they can't know God
Yeah.
until they stop fearing of all of these things outside.
Right. Too many distractions.
There's people that say that I believe in God, I know God. But then why, and I was talking to my brother OG Shabazz about this, he said, why do we fear politics so much then?
Right.
Why do we believe their version of what's going to happen next year?
Yeah.
Right? They don't know the future. Right? And if you have such a strong belief and fear in the God, and that fear is just to keep you according to that will of your higher self, right? Then why aren't you acting according to that will? Because anything other than that, you are operating as the devil will want you to.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And in Hebrew, sin means to be off target. So you're not operating within your higher nature.
Yeah.
That is when you'll be on point.
Mm-hmm.
So this generation needs to get on target to where I know thyself. I see confidence issues all across the planet Earth. Young men meet me and they're trying to figure out, Keys, how do you have this superior confidence?
Right.
Well, it's simple. And I got formulas now that I have, but the simpleness is always coming back to reminding myself of who I am and what I know about myself. Because the simple truth about confidence, it is about confiding with the truth within.
That's right.
Right? If you are a boxer and you go out in that ring and you know you ain't worked out, you know what I'm saying? You know that hand speed not about to be fast.
Yeah.
You just was in there sparring with somebody, they just whooped you.
Yeah.
You feel me? And now you staring at your opponent, you walking in, you probably got a little rapper on the side of you and everything, but you know I'm about to go ahead and lose. That confidence ain't there. Other bruh, man, he been training, watching Van Damme, Bolo Young videos, Bruce Lee, Wesley Snipes. Yeah, he ready. He been playing, you know what I mean, Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
He about to go in there and kill something. You know what I mean? Confidence on 1,000. He ain't just believing, I know I got this. You feel me? He going there 100%. He Bud Crawford, Tank Davis. You know what I'm saying? He in the building. And that's how I approach life.
Yeah.
Because I operate with the law of superior confidence. And so if you can project yourself, and I think it was an Ethiopian rabbi, was talking to Neville, and I was listening to a conversation on the YouTube, and he was explaining how this Ethiopian really dialed in that idea in him, because he was like, I want to go take this trip. And I think he talked about some island, it was like Costa Rica or something. He was like, no, you're already at Costa Rica. He was like, I get what you're trying to say. He's like, no, you don't. You are at Costa Rica. And he was explaining as he was going through these different thought processes, like, oh, I'm about to buy my ticket, I'm going to be there. He said, no, you're already there.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I got my ticket, but then they just laid the plane. He said, that doesn't matter. You're already there. And then he kept dialing it in, and then he called and he got another ticket, and they ended up bumping him to first class.
Yeah.
And he said, I need you to stop. And I need you to know that you are there. Visualize yourself. Be there. Be in the first class. Think about how much you're enjoying the process. Feel the air around you, the sun around you, right? If you can't already be there, you will never get there. You have to be it in the sense of knowing it, 100%. The rest is you're creating friction, right? Instead, I'm pulling the universe around me, right? And every single thing that I manifested in my life 100%, is because I already had it. Right? That's it. It's already in my possession. I got so much money that's in other people's pockets. I'm just waiting to collect.
That's all you got to do.
That's
I tell
it.
people that all the time.
I let people hold on to my money.
I tell people I've been saying that same phrase. Everyone's money, my money is in everyone's pockets. It's my job to extract it.
But my pocket's empty right now, Bill.
So, and that's the job. But how does it happen? But it happens the way you just described.
Yes, sir.
Through attracting.
Yes, sir.
Not through friction.
Yes, sir. But we've lost the art of prosperity in this culture.
It's gone. They have to learn how to command their reality into existence. That's when people say, well, how do you pray? If you don't really believe in the way that the biblical God is, well, how do you pray? I'm like, yeah, I pray. Let me tell you my prayer. My prayer is I command it. If I get on an airplane, I'm not going, oh, please help me get to my destination. I say, I command I arrive at my destination safely. That's my command. If I'm traveling somewhere, I command I arrive at my destination safely and on time. If I need something to be taken care of, I command that it happens. I command that my needs are met. That's the whole prayer. There's nothing else to say. There's no amen. There's no begging and getting on knees and crying and whining. That doesn't exist because that's a low frequency. If I put an EEG cap on your head, and which they've done, connect it to a computer to capture your light waves leaving your brain, when you get into that somber state of crying and whining and begging and hoping and wishing, it's going to be a very low frequency vibration, a very elongated oscillation wave on the screen. Now, if I get you to stand up, stick your chest out, talk with power, I command my realities into existence. I command my needs are met. I command abundance into my life. That EEG cap is going to send to the screen a very close-in, high-frequency cosine wave. It's going to show that you're operating from a higher frequency, a higher vibration. You can see the vibration on the screen. When we're telling people you got to change your vibration, that's just that's not a saying.
Right.
It's real. It's
Right.
a real scientific
Right.
thing. And when you match the vibration that the universe has out there for you, that mirror is going to reflect back and give you back. It's going to attract to you what you're putting out. So if you're in a low vibration, you're always going to get back low vibrational things. And you're going to have a problem for every solution. But when you get into the high vibration and you command realities into existence, this universe becomes so easy. Sometimes I just sit back and go, it's so easy. And I start laughing. And my wife just look at me laughing. I was like, this is too easy. This life is too easy. But I believe it's easy. You see? That's the difference. No matter what comes my way, no matter what tries to blindside me, or what kind of attack I get or what situation arises, at the end of the day, it's always easy. And I'm always going to overcome it. I'm always going to supersede it. I'm always going to command my own realities into existence. And I'm going to jump over every hurdle. But I believe that so hard down to my core that it has to happen. And people need to get that type of mindset.
Because the man who rules the universe is just the one who knows himself.
Facts.
Most of the things, all it is we constantly get off track. And we need to be constantly reminded.
Yeah.
Right? And so who are you is just getting back into your mind, your complete state of mind.
Yeah.
There's moments where we have such an elated sense of self and we feel so good. And we like, I can take on the world. No matter who I talk to, you feel me?
Yeah.
They whatever sales pitch I got is sold. Whoever listened to me go be enthused. Whatever I'm doing today is gonna work. But then we have these fluctuating states.
Yep.
The next day, yesterday felt good. I don't do nothing today. Right? For men and women, we go through hormonal cycles. Men don't even realize they go through hormonal cycles. Right? It's shown that we have hormonal cycles throughout the day. Of course, through sleep activity, right? Our testosterone is higher at certain parts of the day. So this is what it goes back as well as far as being an observer of self and being an observer of the cosmos, right? We have to live according to that law. Not man's law, but cosmic law.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, who am I? Right? What is my bio-consciousness?
Right.
Do we even have consciousness of our biological state? People ask me, Keys, how do I get these big old gains like you?
Right.
Well, do you have bio-consciousness?
Right.
Right? When I became conscious of the way my body operates, right? How it responds to certain food intake, how it responds to when I work out at certain parts of the day. Now I just started living according to my own self-law.
Right.
Islam, I self-law and master. You feel me? And once you learn how to live according to that, then you have a way of life.
Right.
And that way of life, every man has to have a way.
Yep.
A way. How do you do this? And I used to think about that when I was young because I used to just love how certain people just had a way that they did things. It was just different. You know what I mean? And then they had certain likes and dislikes. And I would always watch that. I'd be like, man, I don't always have a particular care for things. But then as I got older, I developed my way. There's certain things that I like, certain things that I don't like, right? I won't pick up my phone at certain times. I will at other times, right? And that's a person that knows themselves. They won't compromise the integrity of who they are.
Facts.
And integrity is not just the virtuous state of ethics, but the integrity is what something is composed of, right? And so if you don't know yourself, you don't even know when you're giving up yourself, right? And you're doing something until the feeling responds, and that feeling is going to say, shame on you. That feeling is going to be guilt. It is letting you know that is a time to turn around. You're doing something that is not in alignment with self. And so it lets you know that, wait a minute, you start feeling shame. That is a signal. Hit a U-turn. Don't go that way again. Don't live in shame ever.
Yeah.
Climb that ladder of, emotional ascension and frequency ascension all the way back up to joy and enlightenment to where you have a higher sense of self. But it is the same way sunscreen. I don't use sunscreen myself. My melanin operated a little differently. I know some of my other electrical counterparts of melanation be mad at me when I say this because of the melanoma that be happening. But that's because you mentally in a coma, you don't know how to hydrate yourself. But I digress to that point. When I go out there, the sun is just letting you know you had too much of it.
Right.
Like I get you black, but at a certain point in time, it start breaking some of them epidermal layers of your skin. You absorbed enough, go in the house. And so, like, imagine as we live by that to understand, like, oh, it's time for me to go in. Not that I want to keep going. Oh, I don't feel full, so I'm gonna keep eating. No, you've had enough. you only supposed to eat to like 70% of that feeling.
Exactly.
But we live in a nation of gluttony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of greed. So we don't operate according to the laws, and we don't even know how to listen to our divine self, our bio self, our cosmic self. We don't understand that, wait a minute, I take a step back and I look at the world. Luckily we have phones and we can start looking at events that's happening in Asia and China and Russia and America. And I'm like, and I take a step back and I process it. And when I process it, I start to get this global perspective. Then I zoom out and get a cosmic perspective. Because the cosmic perspective lets me know why these things are happening at this time. So I don't want just the global perspective, right? The same way, you know, you may walk into somebody's relationship and see that they arguing. Well, that might just be the cycle that they in that argument. It might be the cycle of the time of the money he forgot to get the chocolates for. I don't know. I want to zoom out and get a larger picture, but we're in the time of elevation. We're in the time where we're transcending these ideas and these notions that we have about ourselves.
Yeah, correct.
So then you move in the flow. And you're like, and then people was asking me, you know, what are you guys going to talk about at Invest Fest? And I'm telling you, you're going to have to wait and see. But as I think about Billy Carson, I say, you know, Billy Carson has a knowledge forward and backwards of ancient civilization. And when somebody studies the market, they study cycles. Right? So they'll know, you know, why the cycle is reacting a certain way. And we are in the period of the end of the cycle. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about it in, you know, The Fall of America, how America's moral compensation for its karmic debt is going to be the fall that happens because of the way that it's treated its people. Right? And all of those things now we get to see develop. When I was a kid, I was given that knowledge. Here are the books, read these books, and you will understand what is going to happen. So now you can walk around knowing things. Right? Not just believing things, knowing things, and definitely not assuming things. And most people are not at the knowing level, they're at the assuming level. You speak, and I want you talked about this before. You speak with a level of knowing things. When you speak at a frequency of knowledge. This is what I know. Right? And it comes off as sure and confident, which makes then people believe. And then, of course, they have to have experience with that to know like you know. So how did you develop this ability to always speak like you know?
It started off when I was very small. I had a high aptitude for speech and reading at a very young age. My father, even though he was out there, man, you know, drugs, alcohol, and everything else, he did one thing that was really great that I could never take away from him, which is why I dedicated my financial literacy book to him. He started making me do book reports when I was a toddler. He would have me doing first book reports on children's books. I'm talking about real book reports, the whole layout. You know, this is in the 70s. And then eventually more complex books, biblical texts, encyclopedias, whatever book was laying around the house, novels or whatever. And he had me doing this. And then he realized my aptitude for memory with memorizing a lot of these texts, quotes, verses, and scriptures, or understanding the metaphors and being able to explain it in a way that anyone could understand at a young age. So then he would take me to these bars in New York City, because back then in the 70s, you could take a kid right to the bar and put him on top of the bar, sit him at the bar with you. There was no laws. We didn't even have seatbelt laws back then. And then he would have me reciting all this stuff to his friends and his buddies, showing me off until 3 o'clock in the morning.
You like a little AI, show a little ChatGPT.
And these guys would be asking me all these questions. And then I said, man, when we get home, mom is going to beat you up. And he'd be like, yeah, I know. You know, and then I get home on 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and sure enough, she beat the crap out of him. I mean, literally. But that's what got me started, you know, comfortable speaking in front of people and answering a lot of questions. So that confidence was developing. Later on, I was involved in this catalog company in my early 20s, and I then began speaking in front of 200-300 people at a time, once a week. Every single Wednesday was a meeting. Every week, people were coming in from all over to hear me speak and sell these products and sell this catalog product. And so I developed this confidence in, at least in things that I understood deeply. And one of the things I did is I made sure that I understood the content and the information. I wasn't speaking from surface level knowledge. I only speak on things from in-depth knowledge. When I really dig deep into it, understand the full aspects. Even when I was selling that company's products, I broke down all of the ingredients in the products. I said, they say this stuff is organic and doesn't do this and doesn't do that. I want to find out for myself. I started doing my own science and chemistry experiments. I started breaking down the actual different elements in there. I started trying to analyze what side effects could happen with this and with that, until I got myself to a point where I was so confident in this product that I can put my face on it and I can walk out there and talk about it and I can feel confident selling it.
I agree with that.
And I went to the highest level in that company doing that in only 3 years. And so that's something that's developed over time. But to me, honestly, it started for me when I was really young, and understanding how to comprehend information. The biggest thing that's missing from people's ability to regurgitate knowledge where it's not just surface is they have no reading comprehension. But by developing me as a young man to begin to do these book reports, what was I developing? Reading comprehension. And I was also developing the ability to research data and understand how to put different data points together to build a whole story. In other words, connecting the dots between things that seem unrelated, but truly are actually related. And so that's what helped me develop into the way that I speak now and how I can articulate now, and the information that I have now is all based on knowledge and information that I personally research, not going off of hearsay, not going off of YouTube videos or other people's books. I went off the information for myself. I got Sumerian tablets myself. I went to the UCLA CDLI online cuneiform digital library and used that tool to translate tablets way before AI even came out. And so this information that I'm putting out is my own base knowledge from my own research. And when you do that, you can't help but have the confidence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You just can't. It's got to be, because it's already in you. You've developed, I'm sure of myself. And that's what comes across when I speak.
And, I've been studying mastering communication for a long time myself as well. Like, I have a similar background, And my brother used to make me go door to door and sell these, I forgot what it was. It was something he was forcing me to do.
Yeah.
But I learned such good salesman skills, right? Very well.
Yeah.
Then I used to have Savers Days that we used to go through, which were our holidays. We had to go on stages. And some of the times we'd talk about social consciousness and politics, and sometimes we'd be talking about, astronomy, right? I remember one year I was Jupiter, right? And I always had a natural infinity, with Jupiter, the big red planet, or the big red spot on Jupiter. I could articulate it way better back then.
Talking about the giant storm on Jupiter that's raged for thousands of years.
But I remember going up there, and every time, it wasn't even a think about believing, because when you're a child, you got natural confidence, right? There's no reason to doubt yourself. Who's these people looking at me? I could care less, right? I'm going to go out there and speak, and I would just speak with such tenacity, right? My mom would take me and have me in essay writing competitions. I sometimes be in like debate clubs, which were after school programs that I definitely did not want to be a part of.
Right.
You feel me? But that shaping and how it affects me now, right? Number one, it fostered in, I never thought I was great at it, so I always felt like I had to put effort in it. And when you don't believe it's a natural talent or skill set, you put more effort in, you appreciate the development and the growth of it way more than a talent. The talent, like, I got this already. I'm good at it, I don't need to do nothing. But a skill that you looking at where people, and I'm looking at people, other people, like my older brother was always a better speaker than me younger. So I would think about how I need to get better than him, so I have to put in more effort. But now, I think I've developed it to a point where I'm not at the highest ascension level. I got a couple of levels that I want to get to, but I want to teach it to so many people because most people can't communicate.
Right.
Right? Like, even something simple as like the position of your neck will have a change in tone.
That's
right?
a fact.
If you like this, there's certain ways you ain't gonna speak. If you like this, I can speak the same way. And there's going to be more airflow, right? I'm going to be more confident. And then the other one, and I had to learn early on, was how not to run and talk. And by that was, you ever hear somebody speaking? I still do this today when I get excited, but when I'm on stages, I make sure I'm purposeful with this, or when I'm teaching something. When you're talking, most of the time you're running in your head. When you meet people, they're so excited. Oh, Billy Carson, man, it's nice to meet you, man. Look, I've been doing this thing. And oh man, I just want to talk to you because you just got my mind going, and the aliens and the, oh man, and slow down.
Yeah.
You're running right now, and you're out of breath. Your excitement lead away the mind. So what I learned to do is I would stop, and I would start walking in my mind, right? And if you imagine yourself running and you try to talk, you will speak fast. If you imagine yourself walking, right, while you're talking, now you're going to take it step by step.
Yeah.
So now that I'm walking, I can take you through this process. And then I can speed it up if I need to, but I have control.
Right.
And just that one mental effect, right, changed everything. And there's so many different, skill sets and tools that one can do to change the way that they're perceived.
Yeah.
See, you speak in one tone, right, to where the whole entire time you're going to be at this higher frequency.
Yeah.
Right? That cosine wave is going to be hitting the whole time.
Yeah.
Now, some people, as they're speaking, they're going to start off with a high tone, and then by the end of it, it's going to get a little lower.
Yeah.
But the goal is to keep it there at a certain baseline. So if you want to fluctuate it, to bring to a point.
Yeah.
So everybody's listening. You control the stillness in the air. Then you start to get to another level, because what you're essentially doing is you're controlling the energy of the room. You're controlling the emotions. You're controlling the water of the people.
Yeah.
You feel me? And all great messengers learn how to communicate with the throat chakra, right? And then that ability from that throat chakra to that crown, and as it's looping, you're getting the thoughts and you're speaking them. And then you start to get in the flow and you don't even know where the words are coming from.
Right.
But people used to watch orators that were masters, the Shakespeareans of the world. They were speaking a way of mastery, but we've lost so much of the human element of mastery in life, the appreciation. Like at the highest level, we should only look at the greats, right? And say, that's how I want to speak. That's how you walk. That's how you talk. That's how you move. I look at my brother, Dr. Wesley. The reason I like him so much in the way that he presents information, because he's a scholar, so he's always looking for the facts.
Right.
Then he's always citing his sources.
Yeah.
With every single thing. He might have 300 sources in there
He's
cited.
got a lot of sources. He's got his sources lined up.
And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to take my way. I'm going to take that way. That to me is better. So as we look at the grand scale of human existence, we have to now evolve based on the masters. And I don't think we're doing that.
Yeah.
We pick personalities.
Right.
Right? Somebody might like Trump. He's not a great speaker.
Superficial. They're looking for something superficial.
So you tell, and then here's the problem is somebody might like him and then also take his communication style.
Right.
That's not smart.
No.
Right? You could not like Minister Farrakhan, but you can't deny its ability to communicate a message.
You can't deny it.
So you telling me you're not going to download that? You're not going to study that? Because of the way that your mind has learned to filter information and discriminate against people. So there's certain knowledge you would just stay away from. So you can never be an ascended master.
Right.
Because you're biased to your own ascension.
Exactly.
Channeling.
Yeah.
I believe channeling is one of the keys to this as well, because I can channel different speakers. Sometimes I didn't realize that I was able to do it. But when I was younger, I realized it because sometimes I can directly channel my older brother and see what it was exactly like and how he was thinking and why he was thinking and how he viewed. Then I learned that I can channel, leaders, and I can channel certain people in their speaking style just by thinking of them. I would evoke their whole presence, their spirit, right? And I can use it whenever I want to. And then I had to clear that out and say, okay, well, which one is me, right? And when am I channeling? But I say that because as you go on stage, right? And as you move throughout life, sometimes you need to channel different people, right? Your speaking style may not be the best style to get the entire crowd mobilized for a movement.
Right.
You might have to go back and study Martin Luther King or Marcus Garvey, right? And so that you can get the arousal, the passion of the people. So, but I want you to, if you can, give me a breakdown of channeling in different ways that has been utilized throughout time.
Yeah. Well, channeling is important because all the greats have used channeling to get messages across. It's not that they're trying to imitate or steal someone else's identity. It's that they've identified different aspects of that person's communication skills to be able to transmit a message.
Right.
And you have to understand that different groups of people will take a message differently or perceive your message differently. And if you want to get a result out of somebody, sometimes it requires a different type of a delivery. So for example, when I'm speaking online, sometimes I'm only targeting Black people. And when I'm talking to them about religion, and I may be trying to talk to them about spirituality and the realities and the horrors that I see in some of the biblical texts, I don't talk to them soft and gentle and soft as if I was in a group of people that may be of a lighter complexion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lighter complexion might be like, let me talk to you about Jesus. His name was Yeshua, and this is what I found in my research. But when I'm talking to the people, I'm trying to reach out to our people, I come with the shock factor because I know that that's what they're going to resonate with.
Right.
They're going to resonate with some sharpness, some awkward moments when I say things that's kind of like gut-wrenching and like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that.
Have a little chuckle in there.
Yeah, throw my little chuckles in there, so I shift my personality shifts into a little bit more of a rebel mentality and a little bit more of a hardcore, to the point, cut deep mentality. And when I do that, I reach those people, and I know it because I know my people, because I grew up with my people.
Yeah,
So I had a plenty of time to see these different techniques being used over time between different people and some mentors that I've seen throughout some of the neighborhoods and so forth. And I realized when they go talk to the kids, were my friends, they weren't coming up talking all soft and gentle. And so I have to understand that level of speech, or that almost anger level, but not quite anger, but a dominance, controls a level of talk and delivery.
Yeah.
It gets the attention.
That fiery passion.
Yes, the fiery passion, exactly. It gets the attention, and it actually translates better because that was what they were developed on. They were under that programming code since birth.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they were under that, if I come to them soft and gentle and lily white, it's not going to penetrate.
Right.
It's not going to even get into the mind.
Well, also the delivery method is also based upon what the message is.
Mm-hmm.
Some messages have to be felt.
Right.
Right. If I'm speaking math, I'm not going to go.
No. Yeah.
Right. There's no point, because what you want the analytical brain as of reasoning is sit there and process and learn and study. But when some messages are meant for the spirit, right, and some meant to hit you in the gut. So you want some of like Marcus Garvey, right? He has such a fiery spirit.
Right.
As I'm speaking to the man. I'm speaking to the man and who he is and what he is, whether it's the Christian, whether it's the Muslim, whether it's the so-called Gentile or the Jew. Everybody here, it's time for us to go to Africa. And it's like, you feeling the energy.
Yeah.
What was the last word he said? Africa? Okay, that's where we going. Yeah, let's take over right now.
Yeah.
You feel me? And Martin Luther King, of course, growing up in the gospel, he knew how to be able to, he would like move the waters in you.
Yeah.
Now we're going here.
Right.
For those that are ready to conquer the mountaintop. You feel me? You feel it like, you feel me? And Malcolm X, he was just more of a matter of fact, but he still had a sway with it.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
The black man needs to know himself.
Yeah.
He's lost.
Yeah.
He don't know who he is, because if he was, then he wouldn't be eating that ham. He wouldn't still be calling himself John or Jones. You feel me? So he's speaking to your consciousness and he's hitting you. You feel me? And Farrakhan is like an amalgamation of multiples.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Do you know? He gonna hit you in that gut.
Yeah.
And I believe that this is why so many people are unsuccessful, not because you don't have a good message. You don't know how to deliver it.
No delivery. Well, that's what people come to me all the time and say, I've been trying to tell my family members and my friends about what you've been talking about, and they just get angry at me and they get pissed off and I'm the enemy of the family and everything else. And I say, it's because of how you're telling them the information.
Right.
You're trying to go to battle and stuff it down their throat. I said, the best technique for people to utilize to be able to deliver this message effectively is to give a very small amount at a time and only enough to make them ask a question. You just need one small question and then answer that question effectively and efficiently and don't say anything else.
Yeah.
Shut up and walk away. And then all of a sudden, but wait a minute, or another 2 days, 3 days, a week later, a phone call comes in. But wait, let me ask you one more question about this thing. And then you drop a little bit more on them and then you shut up and walk away.
Yeah.
You don't try to fill their cup too fast.
Right.
You just, what's that guy who used to do the meat with the little salt?
the salt bay dude.
You just do a little bit of sprinkle. And you'll find out over the course of time, this is where the patience takes over. Over the course of time, That delivery method is 10,000 times more effective than trying to shove information down somebody's throat.
Man, we need to do a master class, a webinar.
Yeah.
On, the ascended mastery of communication.
Absolutely. That people can benefit from that greatly.
Man, I think is one of my most requested ones, and it's funny because I haven't done one specifically where it just give you all my tools, because I was writing them down and I realized I have so many.
It's a lot.
Right? Because once you develop a gift and you're just using it, and that's another thing I want people to understand is to like break down the differences and understanding like you have your skills that you develop, you have your talents that are natural, and you have your gifts that you're given. You know what I mean? And each one of them are different.
Yep.
Your gifts are more unlocking in their purpose. Once I use my gift, it's bigger than a skill, right? It's my ability to be persuasive in my message, right? And to be inspiring and condense information to where people can understand it. That's a gift everybody can't do. And so once you understand your gifts, now you have your genius. Now you have that God within that you can use in any place on the planet Earth. You can add value, but you got to learn to use your gifts, right? Then you have your skills that you can develop, right? There's a certain skills that every man and woman, specifically to my brothers though, every man should become an expert at something.
You have to.
Expert at something. And it should be a hallmark challenge inside of households to make sure, I don't care whether you in middle school, high school, college, there has to be a rites of passage where we become experts at something.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of rites of passage in early time, sometimes they'd be an expert marksman, an expert hunter, right? They'd know how to cook or something. But in today's age, expertise is a little easier because there's so much access to information now. But whether you want to become an expert at AI, go put in the hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes being an expert, and there's different levels to it, but it means knowing more than the average. The average person don't know much at all about most subjects.
Facts.
But becoming a high-level expert, now you putting in them 10,000 hours. But along that path to your first 100, you're going to know more than 90% of people. Once you get to that 1,000, now you get into a level of mastery.
Yeah.
Right? And by the time you reach 10,000, you can start using them gifts to really change the world.
Yeah.
So I believe that the word expert should be normalized in everybody's bio. It should be at least one thing. And then from that one discipline, you branch out. But if you're not an expert at something, then how can you really add value?
Yeah.
Right? We need experts. We need scientists. We need mathematicians. We need engineers.
Yeah.
We need people who are great at their You meet people all the time. How many people tell you, yo, I'm an expert at this. I want to work with you.
Every day. All weekend long at the Conscious Awards.
Right.
Hundreds of people.
Right.
Hundreds.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that's different because if you're an expert, I can use you.
Yeah.
Now if you just got an idea,
right.
Well, I got some too.
I got a lot of ideas.
Yeah. But if you're an expert,
yeah.
Like even, then don't be lying to people.
Yeah.
So when you use the word, make sure you got
don't
the
lie on
credential.
the application.
Yeah. Make sure you actually got the experience and the knowledge and the understanding and the know-how. So you meet people and say, Keys, I am an expert at artificial intelligence system development.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. My next question is, okay, what can you do? How can we work together? Right? You've already told me your value.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you have masters, there's a lot of experts and then there's some masters.
Yeah.
Oh, they know this front and backwards. Right? A master is somebody who knows, they have a full comprehension, understanding, right, of that particular subject, right? Just like LeBron James is a master at it, right? But then you might see somebody like Stephen A. Smith as an expert.
Yeah.
That's a difference, right? But he may be a master at journalism. So he can use his gift, right, which is communication, right? And he developed that skill set of communicating and being on air as a journalist to become an expert at something. So now it becomes a vehicle to where he can deliver value. Right? And so everybody has to think about themselves and break it down, because that's one thing that I like to give to people I sit back and forth with, and we discover what are your gifts, your skills, your talents. Then we go into what are your stories? What are your challenges? Right? What are those unique identifiers, right, that you can build a legacy off of? And so those are very important. Peace family, it's 19 Keys tapping in. I'm on my way to Atlanta. But before I get there, I want to make sure that I got you scheduled to do a one-on-one coaching. Now, of course, I can't meet everybody. So I partnered with Invest Fest where we can give away 5 general tickets and 5 VIP tickets. Now, a lucky winner of one of those tickets will also get a one-on-one coaching opportunity with me during the Invest Fest week. The only thing that you have to do is join High Level. It's completely free. And all you have to do is comment coaching below. 5 people will win VIP tickets, which are worth $2,000 each. And the other will get general admission tickets. When you're done, please screenshot, tag me to increase your chances of winning. Peace, family. I'll see you at Invest Fest.
Are we low level or high level?
This damn product right here got too much stuff in it. It got black seed oil, got cannabinoids, it got lion's mane, and it's 1,000 milligrams, right? It's an ounce of black seed oil, got MCT oil, 1 ounce, 0.5 grams of lion's mane powder. I think that's too much. This right here have your brain super focused and charged all damn day. I took this and I was working from the beginning of the day literally to midnight. Now I got a lot of stuff done, but I shouldn't have been that charged up. I don't think that the products should work that well. So I don't think that you should take this if you don't want to get a lot of stuff done throughout the whole day, because everything in here is amazing for you, but I think it's too much ingredients. I feel like you're supposed to take that kind of stuff where it give you a little charge and it had you smooth throughout the day, but not like where you just going and going and going and going. I guess the good part about it is everything is natural and everything is good for you, and it's probably the best thing you can put in your system. But beyond that, unless you got a lot of work to get done throughout that day and you want your mind to be relaxed and you just going supercharged all day long, don't take Supermind. That's my suggestion. What's over there hidden in our Antarctica?
Antarctica is an amazing place. We have a TV series on our network called The Secrets of Antarctica.
Yeah.
And the host is Brad Olson. And the reason why he's the host is because he actually went there. I've known Brad for years. He's been on a lot of different TV shows on major networks. He's been on Gaia TV, History Channel, and everything else. And now he's on my TV network, Forbidden Knowledge TV. He went there and got his own footage. It's hard to get to Antarctica. It took months to get to Antarctica because of all the things you have to go through to get to that region. And it's a really tough trip, tough on the body.
Would you go?
I would go. Oh yeah, I'm an explorer, so I'd go. He got there and then he had to be granted access to the area. It's a no war zone, even though it's protected by military, but it's protected. There's a lot of research facilities there. Now these research facilities represent different nations of the world. The only one that's not from a nation is the Rockefeller Foundation research facility, which is there. And now close to this all these research tents, not really tents, but these like fabricated, research laboratories, there's a huge opening about 30 meters wide. And whatever they're studying is in that hole, which is crazy. Now, a couple things that connect some dots for me. Buzz Aldrin went down there at the time that Obama was in office. And I think it was Obama. If it wasn't Obama, it was Obama. It was either Obama or when Trump just got in, one of the two, either one of the two. And he was down there because all these leaders of the world had gone down there as well at this one particular time, almost like it was a summit in the ice.
Yeah.
Buzz put out a tweet, and in this tweet, he says, the people down here are evil, or something to the effect that we're facing the ultimate evil down here. And he tweeted that out. And then that tweet went viral, as you can imagine. And then I think a day later he deleted it, but by then it was too late. It had made the news, and TMZ and everybody else had a copy of the tweet by then. And so they said, oh, he's just got sick and ill, so we flying him back home. So they rushed him out of there. Another thing that's interesting.
Hold on. So go ahead. I want you to keep that thought.
Yeah.
When he said these people are evil, was he talking about the people doing the research or the people inside the cave?
I think, to me, he was alluding to the people inside that cave or that hole in the ice. And why do I say people? Because if you go all the way back to the time of the Nazis, we know that the Nazis had built a base there. They called it New Schwabenland. And that according to some of the text and information was left behind by Project Paperclip and other things, other research that we've done by sending our own Navy vessels down there to see what was going on down there in that base, they discovered that there were supposedly flying vehicles that can go from pole to pole. And one of the quotes from one of the generals was that we have a new enemy that can fly from pole to pole at high speeds. And one of their Navy vessels was actually attacked and destroyed on this mission. And so we're seeing this connection from the 1930s all the way to now the 2000s, that there's something going on out there that has to do with something bad. It ain't good. And then I had a meeting with Major Ed Dames. Major Ed Dames, if you look him up online, he was the head of the CIA Project Stargate. He's former CIA intelligence. How did he gain intelligence? Through remote viewing. He was the leader of the remote viewing team for the CIA. And he was teaching classes in Orlando, Florida a few years back.
Is he the one that the movie To Kill the Goats, what's it called?
Yeah, the Men with Goats.
The Men with Goats.
Yeah. That's the movie, something similar to that. But yeah, that's the movie's after him.
And
Correct.
is that, hold that thought, I want you to keep, but is that where they got the term to be all you can be?
Yes.
Okay.
They got the term. Exactly right.
I ain't gonna lie, they got the coldest slogan in the world.
I know.
I'd be willing to steal it. I'm like, but they already got it.
They already got it. It's on lock. You can't take it. Yeah, The Men That Stare at Goats. That's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
The Men That Stare
with
at
George
Goats.
Clooney, yeah.
Correct, with George Clooney. That movie was modeled after Major Ed Dames. And I have a photograph. You can insert it into this video of me and him together. And so I spent about 16 hours with the man in this remote viewing training that I paid him for. It wasn't like he was just my homie and we met up to learn some remote viewing. He got paid well for this, okay? But the reason why I bring this up is because at the end of our conversation in our session, he disclosed something to me that was mind-blowing. He said that, I asked him about Antarctica. I said, have you remote viewed Antarctica? And he said, let me tell you something. There are people down there. He called it people. He said, there are people down there that have the ability to come and go as they please, and no country in the world can stop them. That was his exact quote. He didn't say aliens. He said people. He said, but they're down there. He said, they come and go. He says, not a lot of them, but they come and go as they please, and no nation can stop it. So I'm connecting these dots. You got Buzz Aldrin, you got Major Ed Dames, then you have history talking about what happened with the Nazis, and all of a sudden, if you connect it all together, I believe there's something going on down there that potentially could be sinister, or it could be remnants of an advanced civilization that they're researching and trying to figure out, how do we reverse engineer this technology, or how do we understand the anthropology of this civilization, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I believe it's an active location and something is still going on today.
That's interesting. Cause I'm still hung up on these people of evil, because I'm trying to think, in what way can you see a people and see them as evil? Like, I think about the people that, don't have much contact with human beings, and, first thing they go try to do is kill you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those are not evil people.
Right. They're protecting.
Right. They're protecting themselves. So, evil still depends on perception of what you're trying to do, because you are invading somebody's home. If you traveling all the way from your crib to go try to get to theirs.
Yeah.
Now, are they eating people? That could be evil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Are they leading the world from this little cave and controlling everything? Okay,
well, when you look into a little bit more about the story, you discover that Hitler was obsessed with ancient technology.
Yeah.
And he sent his Nazis all over the world looking. Tibet. They went to the ends of the earth looking for these ancient records, scrolls and scriptures and cylinder scrolls and papyruses, ancient artifacts, to try to figure out how can they manifest this ancient technology now so they can create this war and take over the world. They stumbled across these people that he called the Master down there in Antarctica. The Master is what the name exactly was.
The Master. Where can I find this stuff?
Oh, I'll give you all the links to this stuff so you can look it all up. I'll definitely give you all the links.
We got to put some sinister music on this portion.
Yeah, and then you can insert this stuff in the show. And then what they said was that this Master, or whatever these people were, they were this Aryan race. So when I analyzed that and I went back and I realized what the media was pushing was that Hitler was promoting blonde hair and blue eyes, and that was the elite race, this Aryan race. But when I look at Hitler, he don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. So I said, wait a minute, why would he promote a race as being above him, and he's not even on their level? And so to me, what might be happening, and this is my hypothesis, this is where my own thoughts have to come into play now, because I don't have enough data points, could it be that there is an Aryan race that resembles these people? According to some of the accounts, he was promised this Hannibal technology, Hannibal, Haunebu, Hannibal technology, which are these flying discs, which we know were developed because we have images of them, and I can send you those too. And he was be given this technology in order to take over the world, and that they would come out and they would take their rightful place back on the planet, and that they would give him power over the planet. Maybe they were trying to trick him, maybe they were lying to him. But these are some of the accounts, and I can bring you some of that data as well. And that the reason why he was promoting this Aryan race, it had nothing to do with him being blonde hair and blue eyes. It had to do with the people that they encountered in that hole in the ground. And, but again, it's a hypothesis.
So I think what happened was he ran into them Aborigine people.
Well, if you're living under the ground, you ain't getting no sunlight.
Yeah, it ain't got much melanin around the eye. It ain't much, because the melanin you absorb, right? It changes the frequency spectrum in which you see and things of that nature.
Eyes are going to be different light color.
No melanin in the hair.
No.
You go have that blonde hair, blue eye, like
absolutely.
them Aboriginal people.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? I had to hit that spin on him because y'all got to know, there was the Aborigines he ran into. He said blonde hair, blue eye. You know what I'm saying? Y'all missed that's why he stopped at that description.
Well, you have blonde hair and blue-eyed Melanesians in Asia.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
but he ain't gonna put all that. He just blonde hair, blue eye.
Right.
That's just describe it like that.
But it's interesting. It's an interesting story.
It's like describing a mess. He had a black shirt, black pants. What about these black hands? Going too far. Just put that in the book. Boy, Hitler was slick, boy. He was slick, boy.
It's interesting, man. It's an interesting story. So, there's enough data points to come up with a good hypothesis on what could have happened or what might have happened.
Man, the inner Earth conversations, I think, are the more interesting ones on the planet because it's you talk about extraterrestrial, but the idea that they already here and they're living amongst us, because we haven't even drilled that deep in this Earth. Right, we haven't discovered much, especially when it comes to the aquatics of this planet Earth. But then I was talking to Dr. Wesley about the interterrestrials, right? The ones that have not the spaceships, but they have the ships that dive in, right? Because what's the part where they just showed where there's oxygen, right, that comes from the seafloor, right, and then there's a space to where they separate to where they can't go. The same way, the flat earthers say that you can't go outside the fold. Well, that exists at the bottom of the ocean as well. So you would have to think that there's places that we just can't even get access to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So that means that we just don't know.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it would be easier for me to understand in this wideness of this ocean that there are crafts down there, and I believe there's some of the research paper or one of the news organizations have reported that recently, about the sighting of some of these crafts underwater.
There's a lot of sightings.
You feel me,
Christopher? Let's forget about now. Let's go to history that we can document instead of just thinking like hyperbole. Let's look at what happened in the 1400s with Christopher Columbus as he was trying to find India, not America.
Yeah,
he got lost and he stumbled across the islands. But during that process, he wrote in his captain's log. Now think about this: 1400s. There are no lights in the sky. There are no lights in the ocean. There's no light bulbs at all, except for a candle or an oil lamp. Out of the ocean comes up this huge bright light and takes off into the sky, lighting up the entire sky over their ship until it left into outer space. And so this is in his captain's logs in the 1400s. So what did he see? He saw, in my opinion, a UFO or a USO, right? Submerged, unidentified submergible object, come out of the ocean and fly into space back then. And this is captains don't just write stuff in their captain's log. If anybody that's listening is a captain or a shipmate, they understand you don't just write junk in your captain's log. That's the historical record.
Right.
So for him to write that in there, it was extremely important.
And we don't even talk about the USOs at all. Like, that's not even something that most people even think about or even speak about.
Best place to hide because we don't look down there.
Yeah, you have a whole little Neymar down there with his people.
Yeah.
You feel me? The whole time they down there kicking it like they looking up, man. We down here the whole time. that makes more sense, and for a lot of different reasons. And then we would think about it as, you know, we trying to colonize space and all of that, you know, but we ain't even tried to colonize water yet.
Right.
You feel me? We ain't even tried to go to all of these different places inside the ocean and figure it out. But we trying to build rockets with the propulsion power to be able to break away and to figure out how we can send AI to other planets. But we ain't even, why we not trying to figure out the water?
Yeah.
It could be because you can't.
Yeah.
It could be because there's already an agreement in place. We ain't got to tell about the world. You just know that you start trying to break into the ocean, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
You feel me? Because you can also think that if, this is just, you know, in my mind, imagination, because, you know, every country controls their oceans and they control their airspace. But at the end of the day, you know, what if part of it is because the agreement that they made with the governments is that they have to patrol these waters so that nobody can go in them.
There's some agreements.
You feel me?
I could tell you of an agreement that happened, or a requested agreement. They're trying to give a gag order to Ocean X. So in the Baltic Sea, I'm in a documentary called The Baltic Sea Anomaly. And there's this huge anomaly. I'll send you an image of it so you can put it in if you can get it in. It looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. It's at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. You can see the skid mark where this huge object came in and skid across the sea floor until it came to a stop. And it's massive. It's way bigger. It's probably 5 times bigger than this house. And how do we know the size comparison? Because divers went down there from the Ocean X team. You can see these little tiny bodies next to this megalithic object at the sea floor. And when they went down there, all their electrical equipment died. So they came back up. They went back down again, it died again. They finally were able to get some samples and stuff for the third time or for whatever. It didn't die as quickly. But this object is an artificial object. It made all major news channels around the entire world, and then it was just swept under the rug. Ocean X then tried to go back. They were trying to raise money to go back and do another dive to this site and get break off a sample of this object. And NASA showed up at their front door with men in black and told the owner of Ocean X, we're giving you a gag order. You're not allowed to go down there. This guy's like, initially he followed it, but then he said to himself, you can see it in the documentary, he's like, wait a minute, NASA, I'm in Europe. How they got power over me? And he said, if I can raise the money to go back, I'm going to go back. And they raised enough money to go back years later. And they didn't do it. They did it without announcing it, but they sent it down, they documented it, and they took off a piece of this thing and brought it back up. Enough science hasn't been done to analyze that part, or maybe it has and it hasn't come out yet. But the Baltic Sea anomaly is a good example of where an outside agency comes to shut somebody up from talking about something that's at the bottom of the sea. What is a space agency coming to shut somebody up about an anomaly in the bottom of the ocean? That's crazy.
Well, you know, there were some people that'll tell you that the ocean is really space.
Yeah.
You know, what are your beliefs in that? Do you believe that, you know, we exist and there's this threshold that we can't go past?
I don't believe that. I believe that the ocean is not particularly space. It's a fluid dynamic that's more solvent than what we're breathing in, because we're inside of a soup right now. This is an ocean right now this is atmosphere. And these gases that we're in are still a form of water, so to speak, right? And it's also electrical. But I think that the universe itself is vast, and I believe that we can travel from planet to planet. That's just my personal belief based on what I know from astrophysics, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and different sciences, basic standard sciences actually, Newtonian physics. And so we can travel from planet to planet. There is no dome, in my personal opinion, over the planet stopping us from leaving. There are real satellites up there collecting data that are connected to our cell towers, that are connected to our phones, so we can navigate this planet. And I believe that space in itself is just the illusion of distance between planets, because I believe that we're living in a fractal holographic universe. So we have this illusion of this distance, this illusion of separation, and we have to come up with all these different mechanisms to be able to navigate and move through this space, through this ether. But that, you can, if you have the technology down pat and you understand how to do it, you can move through. Now, conventional rocket's not going to get you there. You're going to need something different, like an M drive, which is a microwave drive. which instead of expelling chemical rocket exhaust to push you, because that way doesn't work. What you have is a magnetic or a microwave bouncing around inside of a cone. And just the effect of a microwave with no rocket fuel bouncing around in a cone creates propulsion, but not any kind of propulsion. It creates unlimited propulsion. In other words, you can continue to accelerate until you can reach a percentage of the speed of light with that technology. You can get to Mars in 4 to 5 days when it's in perigee. Perigee meaning the closest point that it is in its orbit around or closest to the Earth. And also, the other method would be a warp drive. In a warp drive, like on Star Trek, they discovered something called the Albuquerque, and they rediscovered the technology in the Albuquerque drive. They've created something in a laboratory now that can warp space. So they discovered that if you can warp space in front of the ship and expand it from the back, you can move space, not the ship. So, because if I travel away from Earth at the speed of light for 1 year and then come back, you'll probably be dead by then, even though I'll only be 2 years old because of time dilation. But if you can imagine putting something on top of a tablecloth and then pulling the tablecloth but not moving the object, the tablecloth is going to pull the object toward you. So a warp drive moves space, giving you the ability to bypass the theory of relativity without breaking the law because space is moving, not the ship. Now you can travel multiples of the speed of light, and I can go away from here 10 times the speed of light and then come back, and you'll still almost be the same age. Not quite, but almost.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that one day. That's so fun. Think I might want to go to Mars or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to Mars.
Check out Venus.
People laugh when I say that, but I'm going to Mars.
I don't think everybody can go.
Yeah.
I think that the people won't even allow certain people to get there.
Only certain people that are going to Mars. And, Elon Musk already talked about taking 80,000 people on a one-way trip.
I don't think that's
It's been his goal to do that. But there's a way to do it, and there's a company to do it with. Now, I'm not going to expose my connection at this point, but at some point, I will get that opportunity.
So you leaving us?
Yeah, I'm going to come back.
You out of here.
I'm not going on a one-way trip.
You're going on an interstellar trip.
And people are like, this guy's crazy. He's going to Mars. They didn't believe me when I told them I was going.
I believe it. Hey, if Billy say he going, this is how I don't even believe Elon going. I believe Billy going. Listen,
anytime I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I told people I was going to build an underground city. They laugh. And then it was on the History Channel. I built an underground base the size of 3 Walmarts underground called Fort Terra Nova. It was featured on the History Channel. It can save the lives of 360 people for a full 1 year without ever coming up above the ground, 50 feet below the surface in a dome structure with daylight, townhouse living, everything. A $20 million project completed in 2013. And the History Channel got a wind of it and it was on there. But when I say I'm going to do something, I do it.
Oh, no, I truly believe it. I just don't think that certain people will be allowed into certain planets. It's like how certain people ain't allowed into certain countries, right? You can't take your record to Canada and just cross the border if you want to. I think we may think it worked like that, but as Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about, he said that certain beings, they don't even allow certain people into the atmosphere, right? Like, you got to think of people with advanced knowledge and technology and things of that nature. You feel me? They got to maintain the integrity of their people. If you are the same way, we go back to the analogy of those people on the island that is protecting themselves. Well, it's the same thing, but just larger as a planet. We see incoming ships. We can't let you cross, right? We gotta scan the life forms on there first. Wait a minute. I don't know. Well, I just read his brain waves. Bro, got problems. Keep him there. Wait a minute. His biochemical structure ain't right. Keep him over there. But also, when it comes to the alien conversation, and I heard you talking about this, I think with, I think it was on Valuetainment. I'm not sure. But you were talking about, you were just talking about it with Mike Rashid about the helmets. But as we talk about going to other planets, we have to also realize we're going to need, and same thing for aliens, unless they biostructure is the same as ours, they would need spacesuits.
Absolutely.
Right? And we would never be able to breathe on another planet, of course, unless we had the technology to terraform that planet, right? That's customized to us. So then you would look at every planet and have to understand the conditions of the planet represents the beings on that planet, right? Our oxygen-rich conditions on this planet with this carbon dioxide and O2, it represents the type of beings we are, the type of lung capacity we are. Right, the type of density that we have, but also it's going to be a representation of the way we think. Right, different altitudes. different conditions of people growing in the hot or cold, you're going to have certain natures about it. And I think that it's the same way you might call the people evil underground. They might call you evil up top. That's why they don't want to visit you. You know what I'm saying? They might look at you and be like, y'all are an emotionally unstable people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all be having problems with each other all day long. Y'all create bombs just to destroy each other. Y'all create systems just to exploit each other.
Yep.
Y'all make life hard when you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all can literally decide at any point in time to make it easy, and then the majority is looking at the minority and complaining about them from being suffering instead of just taking it over. And so it's like, y'all confused.
Yep.
Y'all are really confused people up there. You feel me? So I if I was to go to another planet, I got to get advanced permission first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's required.
Yeah. Anybody to pull up and then you become a slave.
No.
All right, got another one. Go ahead, park them right here.
And you have to have the right equipment, like you said,
Yeah.
because Mars, for example, the gravity field is much less than on Earth. So
Mhm.
if you and I go to Mars with our size that we are, we could pick up a giant boulder, maybe a small car, and throw it. We'll be able to dunk a 15 to 20 foot basketball hoop because we grew up under Earth's gravity force. And so since there's a lot less gravity force there, we'd be superhuman on Mars. Now, because the oxygen is there, but it's much less, we would have to have some type of acclimation suit on to give us the ability. We won't have to be as rugged as an astronaut outfit, like to go to the moon, but it'll be something very lightweight, very small, very, very form-fitting, but we will have to have something that provides us the ability to balance all the gases to give our body the right combination of gases that it needs. So we don't breathe 100% oxygen. We only have 21% oxygen here on Earth. The rest of the gases are a mixture of different gases, helium, hydrogen, krypton, and various other gases. And so we would need that acclimation mask or the acclimation suit to help balance that. But yeah, you know, all those things would need to be pre-thought and pre-planned before you even get there.
But you know, there's certain plant medicines that you can take, and once it fills in your lungs and it slows down your heartbeat, you don't even need to breathe as much, right? And I could imagine that, like, I just feel like we've unlocked 1/10 of what's possible and what we can do, right? I was once practicing some breathing techniques, and I'd held my breath so long, I just stopped believing that I needed to breathe. And what I realized is that my body was trying to, like, create this response of shock, but the shock wouldn't take over. So instead, my heart was moving slow. I'm just there, and my mind was just kind of like waiting for the moment to happen, but it was never happening. And I feel like I induced it myself just because it didn't feel normal, right? And I think about that in reality of how many experiences that we do because it feels normal, but it's not really what we actually need. If we look at some of the human beings on this planet Earth, there are people that don't get tired. They can swim for hours and they can run for miles until the day they die. And the way that their body is set up, they will never get tired.
Yeah.
There are scientists that have just came out with the study about liquid nano gold crystals, right? To where it's going to help with dementia because it protects the layers of NAD and increase ATP within the body. And it's like all of these different things, it sounds exactly like ancient texts. It sounds exactly like ancient people and how they use elixirs and how alchemists was able to put together concoctions.
Yeah.
And we are just not conscious of nature.
Yeah.
We're not conscious of what this earth can do. There's plants I walk past, I don't know what it can do. And you may be stressed out. You could have just chewed on that little plant real quick.
True.
And it would have just operated some chemical in your brain and you would have been smooth.
Yeah.
But ancient peoples walk around chewing on everything. They tried it all out.
Everything, man.
They had to figure it out.
They figured out a lot, though.
That's how they figured out, what was that? Was that Iboga? I think it was the Iboga root. They found it from a bark of a tree.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they're now trying to patent that, you know, and mix it with magnesium. And then people say, we already been doing that. That's nothing special about
They
it.
don't need a patent. It's a naturally occurring thing. If anybody's a drug addict or have an addictive personality, that Iboga will remove that addictive personality and cure them. I know a man who, I was actually on his podcast. He was an alcoholic and drug addict and took that and it cured him instantly.
Right.
Never had to go back again.
But you know how hard it would be to have a society have access to Iboga and then you constantly trying to get them addicted to your product?
Right.
we would stop using social media.
It'll break down the entire system.
Everything.
If everybody took one dose of that, the system would collapse overnight.
And it'd be gone. But those are things to where if you're an alien, right, and you come to the planet, you'll just be like, Iboga.
Yeah.
Iboga.
Yeah.
Like, what that mean? That's the solution, bro. Y'all addicted.
Yeah.
And we are the most concentrated, highly addicted people ever. Because we have more drugs than ever.
Yeah.
Because that same way the chemical may react with, a substance that you may smoke or inject, same thing happens when you stream.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. So I think that there needs to be a mass radical revolution to where we learn how to mix with the medicines of the world and heal and cure. So what's going to happen is there's going to be all of these cures coming out, but they're trying to figure out before they roll it out, can we at least make it where you need it twice a year?
Right.
Right? Right. They don't want to just roll it out because they literally, you got to think, if you're a large pharmaceutical company worth billions, you got 30,000 plus employees, then one employee decides to come up with a cure, right? For, let's say, everything.
Yeah.
It will just put your business out.
Yeah.
There's no more quarterly earnings.
No.
Right? Your fiduciary duty is to get rid of that until you can figure out a way or only roll it out when it's 1,000% necessary.
Yep.
Where it's like, this is the last thing we got to sell. Go ahead, put it on the market.
Yep.
But we're now about to be living in the age of cures, the age of hyper wellness, right? Age of immortality, right? People are freezing their consciousness in chips and bodies, being frozen so that they can preserve it for a time to where either we perfect our immortality or we already have it. This is that time where life and the amount of life you live will become the new wealth, right? And what we have to do in our culture is that we have to consistently push and propagate, because Black men are the biggest health advocates, right, in the culture, right, in the U.S. That's why you got Elijah Muhammad. Before him, that now all of the health movements sound like what he was doing. Dr. Sebi, now they all sound, Dr. Africa, now they all sound like that. But we are the biggest health advocates. We are the biggest social activists. We are the biggest influencers, right? And we are the biggest entertainers. So if you combine that, we have everything that we need, but the problem is our statistics are so high in mental illnesses and disease that has to be our mission right now.
Yep.
Our mission is, how do we decrease these numbers? We can use technology, we can use science to do it, and we can definitely use our influence to push it. So I want to see, more wellness communities pop up, right? We talked about before with Dr. Amin. I want to see brain scans all throughout the hood. I want to see, us challenge the system and being able to utilize some of these ancient medicines, and then us challenge to create bills to where we can have these things open. Because yes, they are labeled as scheduled drugs, but when was the last time we even tried to challenge that?
Right.
Right? So we got all this influence to where we can have, 100,000, 1 million people decide to say, well, we want to change the laws now.
Yeah.
We want to have Iboga clinics, and we want it to be used in a sense to where it can be guided. Because this is where I see we going to start having that change when we start reintegrating with the medicine. We start reintegrating with the cosmos, and we start living as we're naturally supposed to, because this world is sick.
Yeah.
The Matrix is a sick place.
No, it's a sick place.
You're never going to be healthy in the Matrix, right? There's a practice in Japan where the people just go out in nature and they just take long walks in nature and they spend hours in nature, and it is their form of therapy, right? It is their form of medicine, and it shows how it decreases disease, decreases anxiety, depression, sleep issues, all sort of different things. That's the next mass movement, right? Us all in nature, just spending hours in nature. We having camp clubs. We outside hiking. We working out across the planet Earth. We only pushing and propagating these medicines. We're taking and getting rid of all of anywhere there's health disparities at a high level. There should be no liquor stores around. It should be illegal to have it. And if we're going to have politicians that's going to be in place, then you should only be in place. And I just seen where they had the Divine Nine sorority sisters that said that it's like 2+ million of them strong that's going to help Kamala. If you got all that influence and power, right, we need to use that to help ours. We need to use that to change our community, because do we need a bill change? Or we do need to change, right, ourselves and how we use our own influence. 45,000 Black men get on the call. 40,000 black women get on the call. 100,000 white dudes get on the call.
Yeah.
All right. All you doing is showing me that we do know how to unify on the calls, to organize, strategize, fundraise, and then execute. So now that becomes the standard. Now I don't want to hear no marching. Now I don't want to hear no campaign. If we not organizing and putting it, don't complain about
That's it.
You feel me? Like every single statistic we can look at, now we create a organization that becomes a weapon to get rid of it. Like we are responsible for the healing of the nation. And we go do it. I'm going to do it for sure, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to see black men healthy. That's my mission.
It's going to happen. It's happening. It's happened. It has happened.
Yeah. And more doulas for black women so we can stop going to these hospitals and they stop killing our women that's trying to birth our nation. You know what I mean? We can't be complaining and talking about the system in the sense that black women are not getting access to quality treatment. And we're not taking that same activism that they spending hundreds of millions of dollars to elect people to go fight for rights and not building hospitals, right? Or not creating nonprofits to where it can push doula programs so that women across the nation can get safe, healthy, whether they, need medicine or not. But if you can, go the natural route. This eliminates the fear, right? We go to the cure, but radical is getting to the root of something. And most people don't want to get to the root. Do you believe you are a God?
Oh, I know that I'm a God.
Mm.
I believe that,
How you know?
Every person's a God. How do I know? I know because, I'm going to tell you right now, it's because of science. Now, that may be a little off from how other people feel that they know they're God, but I'm a data point person. I need data points. Data points help me perceive my world and how I operate in it. And so when I look and understand the data points, and the data points being understanding the vibrations of atoms, understanding the spin rate of atoms, understanding now that they've developed the ability to write data directly onto atoms. That's incredible. To take and write a data, that means your needle needs to be smaller than the fucking atom. All right? So you have to understand that this is craziness. But when you begin to see that, they're also saying now that, wait a minute, we see something in these atoms. There's already data here. There's information here. The body is encoded with all the knowledge in the entire universe. And the DNA in a human body is sending and receiving Wi-Fi, wireless information up and down, back and forth on a 24/7 basis. It can also take hardwired data and download into the DNA and back up to the server. And with all of this and understanding the elements that birth this avatar body, we're here since the beginning of time, and that this existence is a vibration sparked by the voice of God, the cymatic frequency that went out in the beginning. We have to understand that we're all part of that original energetic source. The science is pointing to the same thing as philosophy, that we ourselves are all God, experiencing itself subjectively as Googles of entities throughout the entire known universe, and Google is a number. And so if you understand, like I say before, this metaphor, the human brain is encased in darkness. It doesn't know what's going on out here, but it has friends. It has hearing, sight, touch, feel, taste. It says to its sensory perception friends, go out there and gather me some information. So they go out and they collect data. Now the friends, they don't understand what they're collecting, but they're sending electrical signals back to the brain. The brain then takes that information, sorts it all out, projects a hologram, and we navigate through that hologram based off of data collected from our friends. Now let's go to the macro. That's the micro. Let's go to the macro, the universe. People call it God. It's conscious. It's a conscious mind. And that mind wants to collect information about what it's like to be in the third dimension. So what does it do? It uses its friends. Who are its friends? Me, you, and everyone else on the entire planet, everyone else in the entire universe are its friends. We are actually a piece or a extension of God, experiencing life subjectively with the illusion of individuality, the illusion of separation, having a unique experience and transmitting that information through consciousness back to the source so that God can understand what it's like to experience life subjectively throughout the entire known universe, as Billy, as 19 Keys, as Mike Rashid, as Dr. B. Serious, and everyone else. And so because of that, I believe that we are a fractal of God literally walking in the flesh.
You sure?
I'm 1,000% sure. Ain't no way, ain't nobody
Yes,
gonna rob
sir.
that from me. And I walk in that power every day. I literally walk in that power
Yes, sir.
every day. And when I wake up, I don't go, oh, thank you, God, for waking me up. I just give thanks. Because I'm directly connected. There's no middleman to go through. There's no shortcut. There's no preacher I got to contact to give the thanks up there. I'm direct. So my thought is instantaneously transmitted. It's thank you.
I think the way we arrive to God, I think there's so many routes to God. And I think the way that you put it together, as I'm joking, but it was very eloquent. Because that's how my mind thinks. But I got so many, because you talked about philosophy and science. Philosophy is always interesting because philosophy is knowing without evidence, right? And it is a very high science itself because it is an intuitive ability for your mind to be able to abstract from the ethers valid versus invalid information and bring up either a correct sense or a knowing of something. And then you interpret that expression, right, into language. And then you speak it to others. Now, everybody doesn't have the ability to communicate, right, their intuition, because everybody doesn't have that ability to, filter what that emotion, what that range of energy is that they're getting. But those who do become the philosophers, right? Those who are flowing with that fire and passion, and then they speak to others. And then all of a sudden, you get a world where all of the philosophies and theories of the past are now realities of the present. And you're saying that, wait a minute, they once philosophized about images on screen and people being interconnected and people traveling to different places and instantaneous and a world being under hierarchies of structures and regimes and people seeing in the microcosm of the world these different atoms and these small universes that we can keep going into. And they had it directly at exact. Then we built words for everything, and we make the person that built the word for the atom and the boson and all of this, like, no, this the person that discovered it. No, actually, it was the philosopher that discovered it.
Long time ago.
Right? You just put all of these words to it, right? You defined it, and sometimes you grab the mathematics, right? And now we have data that can correlate to it so that we can reproduce and say that this is a fact. But what do you think is more powerful? And I asked this to Hugh before, philosophy or science?
Well, I think that philosophy is in most cases more powerful than science, depending on the topic. And the reason why I say that is because first you must come up with the multidimensional concepts and ideas. You have to come up with the ideas of structures and potentials or potential outcomes or superposition outcomes. And once you can do that, now you can say, let me go try to verify if this actually works. And then you can break it down to the scientific method and see if you can replicate it or see if you can gain some type of semblance of reality out of it. And a lot of the times, if you look at some of these really great philosophers, all of a sudden you see that modern science is just now catching up to what they've been talking about for eons. We're just getting there.
Right. We talked about how there was consciousness and everything, and now science is talking about, I think plants are conscious.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
We already knew that, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad. And then it almost makes science seem so slow because their methodology of confirmation lacks the human spirit, lacks that consciousness of self, that knowing. You spent all of this time doing an experiment to try to create an external version of what you already had as an internal knowing. Right. And that's the limitation, because when you don't add in the spirit and the intuition, then you're limited by your five senses. If I can't see, touch, feel, hear, it must not exist.
Exactly.
And that's not really real. That's why we as a people, we know about the spirit realm. We're connected electrically throughout the different ethers of different dimensions. And so when we hear something, then we can believe it and know it. Right. But when you're limited, you say, show me. Right. Now, that means that you have the power and force to act as God to manifest that into reality, which is part of the process. But it pre-exists. Right. The manifestation of a scientific experiment theory or published paper cited, right? It was already a thing, and it was ancient people that broke it down, actually far more poetic than you ever will give it credit.
Facts.
Now, was what you said the Fractal Universe, the way you broke down God? Because that's what it sounded like. That was cold, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all better get that book, because that was cold. That's what I was listening to, because you was breaking it down from the macro to the micro.
Yeah.
And when I first started going into 19 high-level observations, that was it. It was having an understanding between everything the 1 through 9. And between that, you have all, right? And it's a representation of all truth, right? From philosophy, physics, psychology, patterns. I was studying all of the different P's, and I was just breaking it down, and it just led me to all of these different ideas. But that's why I say this generation be in the air with it.
Yeah.
As a Taurus, as somebody who's rational, who leads with reasoning and logic, I have to bring it down to a practical universe. So existing in that dimension, that's good to go in and grab the thoughts from the ether, but you can't live there.
Right.
You have to bring it back down here in this reality to where you can control space and time.
Right. You got to integrate.
You can produce.
Yeah.
You have done that in such a masterful way that few people on this planet Earth have done.
Thank you.
You have learned how to create frameworks, formulas, right? You've learned how to structure teams, to organize, to capitalize and utilize the systems of now, to take your consciousness not just as awareness, but to turn it into action, which for me is enlightenment, because it is that light turning and manifesting into matter, right? Knowledge to matter, right? And so you've built all of these things that the average person would think is for the unconscious.
Yeah.
Right? But consciousness literally just means to know.
Right.
Right. So I want to applaud you, and I want to thank you for number one, the award show that you put together, the TV shows that you put together, the network, the ability to have people invest in your network, the team that you have, right? All of the things that's required to become who you are.
Thank you.
Right? We may call you Billy Carson, but you more than that. You're your past, present, and future. You've all of these dimensions and entities, and people can say what they want, but they can't do what you do.
Facts.
Right? So at the end of the day, you mocking something that you cannot be. Right? And that's the reason that most people do it. Because they know when they look at Billy, you set the bar too high. Right? And most people don't want greatness for themselves.
Right.
So instead of you looking cross-lateral at the peer, somebody who's at your level, you're looking for your excuse at the top with somebody who's way past.
Right.
Instead, be inspired, admire, become, learn. Right? When I sit with you, I want to learn something new. You have a mind that goes into different pockets and dimensions, and I write stuff down and be like, okay, I'm about to go study about this Antarctica real quick. All right? I want to go deeper and dive into it. But then you also possess as an elder, right? You ain't that old, but you're a little elder than me. You feel me? I can see myself in you, right? So where I say, okay, let me develop some of these patterns, right? Let me structure and organize in these ways,
right?
Which is what it's supposed to be. Nobody has to be agreed with,
right?
Right? But learn from each other.
Facts. That's exactly what it's all about. Learning.
If we learn, we go build.
Yeah.
But the problem is we admire things that we should not become. Right? And nigga culture has become the highest level celebrated in this culture.
Yeah.
And that's what we fighting. We have conversations of intellect to make you think, because a thinking man, as I always say, is a free man. And I want to thank you all for listening and always observing, right? And I want y'all to continue to tap into my good brother, Billy Carson, and everything he's doing over there at Forbidden Knowledge TV. And if you didn't already, go invest with my brother, go buy his books, go support his praises, go sing them loud to the world, because I want you to show your children, I want you to show your uncle, I want you to show your father. So there's different archetypes in the world than the pimp, the player, right? The entertainer, the rapper, the politician. We have other examples of who we can be. And it's time for us to be the heroes in our story. It's time for us to adapt the archetype of the hero that practices self-saviorism. That's not waiting on nobody to save him. And that means that you have to imagine yourself in every circumstances saving yourself. And most people don't do that. Most people are victims of circumstance. They can't see themselves changing the world. They can't see themselves saving the world. They can't see themselves getting themselves out their own financial hardship, because they don't have that archetype projected in their mind as an image of possibility. So the goal is to constantly push that in your face, so the only thing that you can think of is that. But when the world is constantly trying to show you an inverse reality from the God that you are, and trying to make you into a dog, then you develop the traits of a dog. And now you're trying to break back into to reverse engineer everything that they put in you to get back to godhood. High Level Conversations is just that. Thank you for tuning in. Till the next time. Peace. Peace family, it's 19 Keys tapping in. I'm on my way to Atlanta. But before I get there, I want to make sure that I got you scheduled to do a one-on-one coaching. Now, of course, I can't meet everybody. So I partnered with Invest Festival where we can give away 5 general tickets and 5 VIP tickets. Now, a lucky winner of one of those tickets will also get a one-on-one coaching opportunity with me during the Invest Fest week. The only thing that you have to do is join High Level. It's completely free. And all you have to do is comment coaching below. 5 people win VIP tickets, which are worth $2,000 each, and the other will get general admission tickets. When you're done, please screenshot, tag me to increase your chances of winning. Peace family, I'll see you at Invest Fest.
Are we low level or high level?
This damn product right here got too much stuff in it. It got black seed oil, got cannabinoids, it got lion's mane, and it's 1,000 milligrams, right? It's an ounce of black seed oil, got MCT oil, 1 ounce, 0.5 grams of lion's mane powder. I think that's too much. This right here have your brain super focused and charged all damn day. I took this and I was working from the beginning of the day literally to midnight. Now I got a lot of stuff done, but I shouldn't have been that charged up. I don't think that the products should work that well. So I don't think that you should take this if you don't want to get a lot of stuff done throughout the whole day, because everything in here is amazing for you, but I think it's too much ingredients. I feel like you're supposed to take that kind of stuff where it give you a little charge and it had you smooth throughout the day, but not like where you just going and going and going and going. I guess the good part about it is everything is natural and everything is good for you, and it's probably the best thing you can put in your system. But beyond that, unless you got a lot of work to get done throughout that day and you want your mind to be relaxed and you just going supercharged all day long, don't take Supermind. That's my suggestion.